out there who can't talk about what they're going through, to make this clear so that in 10 years from now, I cannot wonder if the world knew what's happening here. I would know that they knew, or that that was an explosion, or that we tried to communicate it, that, even if there has been lack of knowledge, it's not because we didn't try, it's because the world knew and didn't care, or knew and chose to not do anything about it.
This edition of Assignment was produced and presented by me, Simon Mabin. It was edited by China Collins.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1.
Good morning. I'm Margot Watt, sitting in for Marcy Marcusa today, and welcome to Information Radio. We're going to start off the day, as always, by taking a look at what happened overnight while we were all asleep. What's in the news this morning? Heather Wells joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, what was meant to be an information session turned into a heated showdown last night over plans for the junction of the Highway number 1, the Trans-Canada, near Highway 5 at Carberry. That's where 17 people died 2 years ago in a bus crash. Many say the proposed R-cut, which restricts direct left turns and through traffic, would make that intersection even more dangerous. We're going to hear some of the arguments coming up. And firefighters' work in Flin Flon doesn't end, even though people in that northern city are back in their homes. Jason Curis, fire chief there, says his crews worked 18-hour days fighting back the flames, which came right to the city's edge. He says he's thankful municipalities from across the province sent in extra crews. So we'll hear more from him as well as other news coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather. And our morning crew is all with us this morning. Abby is here to check out the weather conditions across the province. Good morning, Abby. Sierra Sanders is our director, and she'll be doing traffic for us today as well. Hello, Sierra. They're all waving. You can't see it, but believe me, they are waving. Brad Lillies is our YouTube producer. Hello, Brad. Make me look good. We're at 18 degrees here in Winnipeg, and we will be clearing this morning, a high of 25 later today. For tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 14. And then for tomorrow, a mix of sun and cloud and a high of 27. Well, still to come here on the program, we will introduce you to a local teenager. You will just love this teenager. On a mission of joy, one video at a time. We'll talk about her TikTok videos and how they are just going viral. Also, we'll check in with a food writer and cookbook author. Maybe you're planning a bit of a spread for Canada Day, so we'll get some good thoughts about menu ideas for both food and for beverages. And the latest data that's out shows a worrying trend about credit card use in Canada. Delinquencies are up and people are not able to pay off their balances. We'll get into details on that with our personal finance columnist. All to come after 6.
Today on Q.
This job has one rule. You follow orders.
I'm Talia Schlanger sitting in for Tom Power. The hit police drama Allegiance was just renewed for its 3rd season. Show creator Anar Ali will tell you about leaving her corporate job for a life in the arts and why she wanted Allegiance to show a different kind of immigrant story.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. We are hearing from Iran's supreme leader this morning. Ali Khamenei is speaking for the first time since the U.S. announced the ceasefire in the Iran-Israel war. This is happening on the same day U.S. lawmakers expect a briefing by top Trump administration officials about the U.S. president's decision to strike nuclear sites in Iran. Tom Perry is following this from London for us. And Tom, what is Ali Khamenei saying?
Well, we've now heard from Iran's supreme leader. He's not been seen or heard from in days. He surfaced this morning and he put out a series of statements on social media. And they read, I offer my congratulations on the victory over the fallacious Zionist regime. That's his reference to Israel there. The Zionist regime, he says, was practically knocked out and crushed under the blows of the Islamic Republic. He goes on to say that the U.S. regime entered the war in an effort to save Israel, but achieved nothing. The Islamic Republic, he says, delivered a heavy slap to the U.S.'s face. It attacked and inflicted damage on the U.S. airbase, one of the key U.S. air bases in the region. So Iran's supreme leader there on social media this morning claiming victory in his country's fight with Israel. And the U.S. probably aimed mostly there at a domestic audience for the people of Iran, but also putting on a brave face, I think, to the international community after this fight.
And tell us more about today's intelligence briefing.
Well, we are expecting a briefing from the U.S. Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. He's expected to reveal more information about just how much damage the U.S. caused in its strikes against those Iranian nuclear facilities. There was, of course, this initial report leaked to the U.S. media that suggested the damage was not all that severe. U.S. President Donald Trump reacted very strongly to that. He called it fake news. Now, we have heard from the director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe. He's weighed in on this question of just how much damage the U.S. did. He issued a statement saying the CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by the recent targeted strikes. He says several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed and have to be rebuilt over the course of years. So the CIA director really backing up his boss's version of the story there. We've heard Donald Trump talking about the possibility of speaking with Iranian officials. No confirmation of that from Iran. And we've heard calls from countries, including Canada, for a return to negotiations and for Iran to be transparent about its nuclear program.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
The CBC's Tom Perry in London. There is anguish and outrage in the occupied West Bank. Palestinians buried 3 men there overnight. They were killed by Israeli settlers who attacked and set fire to their community near Ramallah. Rights groups say extremist settler violence has surged in the West Bank. Chris Brown reports from Jerusalem.
Cars were left smoldering and homes scorched by fire after a rampage by extremist Jewish settlers, says Talat Sami, an eyewitness from the town of Kafir Malik. They attacked women and children, and when the young man went out to defend his family, they shot him in the head without reason. The bodies of 3 Palestinians were later taken to hospitals in nearby Ramallah, accompanied by angry, chanting crowds. Over the long years of Israel's military occupation, settlers have deliberately encroached on Palestinian communities, and violence is now a near daily occurrence, say Israeli and Palestinian human rights groups. But the war in Gaza has inflamed tensions even more, leading to military raids and crackdowns by Israel. Earlier in the day, its troops shot and killed a 15-year-old boy near Jenin, and a 13-year-old was killed in Kafir Malik on Monday. Many of the settlers are part of the Israeli military and armed with automatic weapons. Canada recently sanctioned 2 of Israel's most senior cabinet ministers for contributing to a more permissive environment for settler attacks. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Nunavut says it is still experiencing a suicide crisis. It has been 10 years since it was first declared in the territory, but the government has not declared it a health emergency. The CBC's Samuel Watt has more details.
We are still in a crisis. It is a crisis.
Reaffirming suicide as a crisis, Health Minister John Mayne is bringing Nunavut full circle a decade after it was first declared. The issue came up after a recommendation from a coroner's inquest in April that looked into the death of a man who stabbed himself during a police confrontation. A crisis declaration isn't legally binding, but Mayne says there are still ways for Nunavut residents to hold the government accountable.
Judge us by our actions. How many mental health staff do we have on the front lines? How many shelters do we have or spaces for youth?
The territory has the highest rate of deaths by suicide in the country, an average of 32 a year out of a population of over 30,000 residents. Paul Ernout is the Vice President of Nunavut Tongavik Incorporated, the territory's land claims organisation. He says suicide prevention is not straightforward.
It could mean overcrowding in families. A lot of times there's bullying involved.
MLA Janet Pitilak-Brewster has pushed for a public health emergency designation instead of calling it a crisis. That would trigger extra resources like more suicide training.
What's most important is to arm community members with the ability to walk each other through this ongoing crisis.
Brewster says those resources could help Nunavut avoid another crisis declaration 10 years from now. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The Carney government's major projects bill could be passed by the Senate as early as today, but some senators are expressing reservations about Bill C-5, including whether the legislation will push aside Indigenous rights in order to accelerate the approval of some projects. Those concerns might be addressed at a meeting between the government and Indigenous organizations next month. But Senator Patrick Brazeau has questions about that too.
Wouldn't it be important to have clarification on why the meeting is taking place with Indigenous organizations when those 5 Indigenous organizations in Canada are not the rights holders of anything? They are political lobby organizations.
Meanwhile, Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak is calling on senators to apply the brakes to C-5 and allow more time for study. The annual Call of Duty League Championship draws tens of thousands of people in person, but also millions online. Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Dallas have all played host to the event before, but this year it's in Kitchener, Ontario. Cameron Miller has more.
I'm just really excited to, finally experience that. I've been waiting for it all year.
Joseph Romero is getting ready for battle. Known in the gaming world as Joe Deceives, his team, the Toronto Ultra, is taking part in the very first Call of Duty World Championship to ever be held outside of the United States. And it's happening in Kitchener, Ontario. Call of Duty is a 22-year-old, massively popular first-person shooter game that throws its players into military-style virtual combat. The tournament pits 8 teams of 4 against one another for a $2 million prize, but for Romero, who started playing the game when he was just 5, it's not prize money that drives him.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never even known how much I make off events. I don't really look into it. I kind of just, when it hits, it hits. But yeah, I really do just love winning.
Center ice at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, better known as the Odd, has been converted into a screen-covered stage with concert-style lighting and audio equipment and 4 massive jumbotrons where thousands of fans attending can watch the game. Neil Duffy is the Chief Commercial Officer of Overactive Media, the group behind the Toronto Ultra team. He says creativity is part of why they brought the tournament to Kitchener.
They've been open-minded and really creative in developing solutions to allow us to host a world-class gaming event.
8 teams are vying for the title. The winners, and maybe the future of esports in Canada, will be decided in Kitchener this Sunday. Cameron Mahler, CBC News, Kitchener, Ontario.
His name is Villeneuve, Denis Villeneuve. Quebec's Denis Villeneuve will direct the next James Bond movie. He says he is a diehard Bond fan, and he knows tackling such a beloved character is a big responsibility, but Villeneuve is no stranger to ambitious projects. He is shooting the 3rd and final Dune film this summer, and he's got some time before moving on to Bond. There's no set release date, and we still don't know who will play the next 007.
I know the ringer with the slick trigger finger for Her Majesty.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Another bill from a killer, turn a thriller to a tragedy. Yeah, the door that was open, a woman walking by, a drop in the water, a look in the
Good morning. I'm Margot Watt, sitting in for Marcy Marcusa today, and this is Information Radio. Welcome to the show. Coming up on the program, we'll meet a local teenager on a mission of joy, one video at a time. We have a Canada Day feast for you. We'll chat with a food writer and cookbook author about what foods you may want to include on your Canada Day menu. And also in this hour of the program, our personal finance columnist says more Canadians are turning to credit cards to pay for everyday expenses. That's leading to more delinquencies and higher debt loads. So how do you get out of that mountain of debt? Our finance columnist has some helpful hits. You're with Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on your Listen app and on YouTube. With the very latest from our Winnipeg newsroom, here's Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, tensions boiled over at a public open house last night in Carberry over plans to redesign the intersection of the Trans-Canada and Highway 5. That is where 17 people died in a 2023 bus crash. People from the area packed that meeting. They were angry over the recommendation from Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure to install what is known as an R-cut, a restricted crossing U-turn. Many say it's just going to make that intersection even more dangerous. A Flin Flon homeowner who fled fire returned to a flood. Ainsley McIntosh Stallard had a foot of water in her basement. Her sump pump shorted out during a power failure while she was gone. She says despite that water damage, she is so happy to be home. We'll hear more from her coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Oh, how awful after all of that, getting home and finding water like that in your home.
Yeah. And she says she expected to smell smoke when she walked into her house and instead smelt mold.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
We'll have more from some of the evacuees as well throughout the program today. Our reporters were in Flin Flon yesterday talking to some of the people as they arrived home for the first time in weeks. So that's also coming up here on the program. Let's take a look at the forecast here for Manitoba. Abby Adiyami is with us. Hello, Abby.
Good morning, Margot. How are you enjoying the season already?
You know, it has been, I mean, you hate to talk about how nice it's been because of the smoke and what so many people have been going through in our communities, but my goodness, we have had some nice, clear, lovely weather of late.
Yeah, and we're still going to get more wonderful weather on its way. We're looking at conditions from the north all the way to the southern part of the province. Today will stay mostly warm with some clouds and a chance of showers here and there. We have this air quality warning in effect around the Lynn Lake and nearby regions because of the smoke you talked about from the forest fire. Now, when the smoke gets heavy, it can affect everyone's health. So it's a good idea to stay indoors as much as you can and think about postponing outdoor plans if you notice the smoke is impacting you. Conditions in Winnipeg at this time, 17 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions, though those clouds will start to clear as we get into the morning. Then we'll see more like plenty of sunshine later in the day. The winds will peak up from the south, becoming breezy at some point. The afternoon feels comfortable. We'll see temperatures near 25 degrees, though with the humidex factored in, it's going to feel warmer. Across the southern region, the Red River, the Pembina Valley, the Westman, the Parkland, the Interlake regions, we're seeing temperatures right now between 10 and 17 degrees. It's going to be warm today, mix of sun and clouds. Also, some morning showers will be spotted in some areas, but that should clear by the evening period. Highs will be near 25, 26 in these areas. While up north, the powerful Flin Thompson, Churchill, we're seeing cooler temperatures between 6 and 15 degrees at this time. We're expecting mostly cloudy skies in that part of the province. We have a risk of thunderstorms also through the day in the north. Brandon right now seeing misty conditions and Dauphin seeing some sunshine. But right now, Winnipeg, we are at 17 and we are warming up to close to 25, 26 today.
All right. I like the warm-up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Sierra Sanders is going to check traffic for us throughout the morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Margot. We're just getting the commute started and the show started as well this morning. People are waking up. So there's not too much going on the roads right now. But if there's anything slowing you down out there this morning, whether you are here in Winnipeg or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
A Winnipeg teen is on a mission of positivity, one TikTok at a time. Have a listen.
Making the jumbo elf lip gloss. I got called into work. My manager was like, "You can't work tonight, can ya?" And I was like, "Be there." Basically, my friends and I have the summer gang because we were hanging out at the park one day and there was these guys playing basketball and they're our age. And we're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm making bikinis and it's so exciting. Like, I finished a bottoms. I'm gonna go get them."
That is Dahlia Martin offering some makeup advice, sharing stories in some of her TikTok videos. It's a lighthearted chatter about day-to-day life, but here's the thing, it is taking off big time. Her account has racked up a healthy following, with some videos scoring more than 1 million views, and she only launched last fall. Now the 16-year-old hopes that more people will follow her lead. Dahlia Martin joined Chloe Friesen on Up to Speed yesterday. Here now is some of their conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, your reaction to hearing your own TikToks was one of my favorite things. What was going through your head?
I was just like, oh, that's my voice in like the CBC studio. Oh my gosh, I was shocked. I wasn't expecting you to play that, but I thought it was pretty funny just hearing it from a different point of view.
Yeah.
Because like, I see my videos, I make the videos, and then I watch them when I edit them. I post them. I don't really rewatch them. So hearing that was pretty funny.
Okay, take us into your channel. What kind of videos do you make?
Yeah, so I do lots of makeup and a little bit of lifestyle. I do get ready with me, so I'll just do my makeup, do my skincare, tell people about my day. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of a day in the life routine. I kind of steered away from that during exam seasons because it's a lot of work, but I like makeup, so mostly get ready with me's.
Okay, and the response has been pretty incredible. I know you have a video that has 1.9 million views. Why do you think this type of content is drawing people in?
I just think because there's so many people more interested in makeup now, especially starting with younger generations, younger kids, and seeing people do makeup, it's something so empowering, that's a hard word.
You got it.
Something so empowering and something so interesting to seeing how everyone does their makeup different. Or like, oh, I've never seen someone do their blush like this. Oh, this is a nice new lip combo, this and that. So it's just really interesting to see how we can be connected by something but do it so differently.
And the internet, we all know, can be a harsh place, especially for, I imagine, a 16-year-old. Why did you want to put yourself out there in this public way?
Honestly, there are so many reasons, one of them being that I did need another hobby. But growing up in dance, I wore makeup from a young age. So I'd be like, walking into a Starbucks, full face makeup, slick back, red lip. And thinking back, I'm like, oh no, they had to know I was a dancer. But then I felt, oh, this is kind of weird. I don't want to go into Starbucks to get my Frappuccino. But now I'm just like, there's so many younger girls who look like me, younger Black girls who don't have the representation that there should be. When I was younger, I definitely had relatives like my mom, my auntie, and there was definitely some, but I don't think that there is as much as there should be. So if I can make my Get Ready With Me's, and especially because there's more interest in Get Ready With Me's with young girls, and I can post them, I hope they can feel recognized. I hope I can make them smile a little bit more. I really do.
And it seems like, I don't know if you have always been this confident and outgoing, but has this played a role, you think, in your own confidence?
I feel like it's progressed a little bit, but with dance, I've always just been like, put me on there. I want to smile. And also just getting a lot of recognition, nice comments, that does play into it. Like, that makes me happy.
Yeah, because you get a lot of comments,
yes,
I think, on thousands of comments on some of your videos.
Yes.
And the lovely ones must be lovely, but are there ever less than lovely ones?
Yeah, there are some harsher ones, but honestly, like, for me, because... Okay, I'll break it down. For people to comment something nice on my TikTok, that just means so much to me. I do try and reply because I hope that me replying to TikToks doesn't discourage people from commenting. Because there could be a video where it's not as lighthearted as, oh, get ready with me, and like someone really needs a nice comment. So I want people to continue commenting and like bring more joy. So if I do get a harsher comment, I haven't gotten too many. I don't really take it as a grain of salt because then I know the good outweigh the bad. And I am so, so grateful for that I'm even able to make Get Ready With Me's in my free time. I have Francais Fridays, though. That can be a little hard.
Yeah, you practice your French.
I try to, yes. So I do get some comments on there. I mean, I try really hard, but some of them, it's like, okay. But you know what? I take it as more of criticism. Like, okay, I need to sharpen up my French in this way.
Gotcha. Does your French teacher know?
My French teacher, yes. So one of my friends actually showed my French teacher. I was like, stop. No, keep showing. No, but she knows and she really likes them. And honestly, because we all know how hard we each work, and I know how hard I work in French. And the thing with my Francais Fridays is I don't use any translator, nothing like that. So it's like a mix of broken French, franglais, English, it's all in there, but I do try. So sometimes comments can be harsh, but it's like, if that person really feels like commenting that will like make them relief in some way, it's good because I know I can handle it. And it's better that they comment on something like my TikTok where it's my French speaking skills, where they definitely could use some work.
For folks who don't use TikTok, how would you explain what it means to you and your generation as a creative outlet?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, because we're told that we use our phone so much, we're like, yeah, okay, let's get on this. Let's give the people what they want. You just sit down, record a video, and then you just keep being yourself. So many people will do get ready with me's, or you'll see, oh, choreograph this with me, or do my nails with me. And there's so much that you can see on TikTok. And then there's these niches, so it just keeps going and going. And you just make videos, you find your people, you find your interest, you can find internships, jobs. It just keeps expanding and opening stuff for you, and it's what we know, like it's technology, it's phone, so we're pretty good at it.
What do you hope viewers take away from your videos if they scroll by and Dahlia comes up?
I really hope they just find them funny, but I hope they find like you need to take the little things and bring them into bigger moments. Like I said, these get ready with me is not always, I'm not going to be talking about complicated things, just lighthearted things. Maybe one day, but right now it's just lighthearted things. So you got to find the little joys. And there's some people that'll be like, oh, I think this is really cool. But there'll also be people like, this is weird, this is corny. But as long as you're having fun, literally do it. I find joy in it. I try and make a get ready with me every day. Or sometimes I'll look at my TikTok. I'm like, oh, I haven't made a get ready with me. Okay, I'm out of bed. That's how I get up in the morning. I'm not a morning person, but with these get ready with me's, they're changing me a bit. I can't lie.
That's Dahlia Martin, a Winnipeg teen spreading positivity via her popular TikTok channel. And you can check out her videos. They're great on TikTok at Dahlia_Simone.
What's your Canada thing? What makes you proud? What makes your patriotic soul sing? Join us at the Forks on Canada Day and tell us. CBC is bringing a digital display where you can get a picture, play our Canada Day quiz, and shout your Canada thing loud and proud. Look for CBC, proud sponsor of Canada Day at the Forks. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
Well, maybe you're already thinking about Canada Day. Maybe friends are coming over, the family's going to pop by. So what is the best way to celebrate? If you're looking for quintessential Canadian food ideas to add to your holiday menu, we have you covered this morning. Joining us now with some of her favorites is Julie Van Rosendahl. She's a food writer, cookbook author, and frequent CBC contributor. Good morning.
Good morning.
I know you're joining us on Zoom. You have to tell people about the beautiful sweatshirt you're wearing.
Oh, yes, it's my Canada sweater, huh?
Very nice.
Got it out of the closet just for this occasion. Yep.
I like it. So you're already in the spirit of things. What are some good Canadian foods that would work for a Canada Day menu?
Oh, it's such an interesting question. How do you define Canadian food? I think what makes an appropriate menu is as diverse as the people celebrating. And one of the most amazing things about Canada and our cuisine is the incredible range of cultural influence, the culinary traditions that have come from around the world combined with our terroir. And it's been amazing to see Canadians seeking out food grown and produced in Canada in recent months, supporting local producers, grocery stores adding signage, brands redoing their packaging. And we've all just learned so much about what grows and is produced here.
And not only foods, but also some desserts that are uniquely Canadian.
Oh my gosh. So butter tarts, when you talk about iconic Canadian foods, butter tarts are my favorite. My grandmother in Windsor made the very best ones with a bit of maple syrup. In the prairie, I use Rogers golden syrup.
Me too.
And it's got that buttery flavor. Currants are traditional, which are actually tiny raisins. They're Corinthian raisins. So that just to eliminate the raisin, no raisin debate, always raisin, but currants.
Oh, Julie, I don't want to get into it here. It's so early, but, I've been doing butter tarts for years. I'm told they're pretty good. I won't take on your grandmother, of course. But we sort of have a no currant, no raisin policy in our house. So this is subject to controversy, though.
Oh, huge controversy. But the great thing is how I deal with this, because there is always controversy, is put a few currants right into the pastry shell and then put the filling over top rather than stirring it into the filling, so that I can make half batch with no raisins and half with.
I like that. Good Canadian compromise. So what are some of your favorite foods that would be specific to particular regions of the country?
Oh, we have such a broad range of culinary traditions and the terroir from coast to coast to coast. I love seeking out, salmon on Vancouver Island and bagels in Montreal, bake apples in Atlantic Canada. Some of our largest Canadian crops are canola, pulses, barley, oats, wheat. We have such amazing wheat here. The primary variety is Canada Western Red Spring Wheat, which is particularly high in protein. So it makes really great bread. Of course, a lot of mustard grows here, fruit and vegetables, potatoes. My dad immigrated from Belgium, so I often make a big pot of fries when I have people over with some garlic aioli with canola oil and mustard and Alberta garlic. And then when you have a pot of oil going on the stove, you can make donuts. So Canadians eat more donuts. We eat more donuts per capita than any other country in the world. So I'll often make beaver tails, which is a trademarked by Beaver Tails Brands in Quebec. But easy to make, to pad out a yeast dough into like a paddle sort of shape, score it to make that pattern, and then fry them, douse them in cinnamon sugar while they're still warm. Fresh donuts right out of the pot makes everyone happy.
I would love to be at your house on Canada Day. So the fries have just come out and then, I'm going to make some donuts. Beautiful.
Yep.
And of course, this time of year, we have the farmers markets. We have some great markets here in Winnipeg and across Manitoba, and starting to see rhubarb and just some great fresh produce, right?
Oh, there's so much in season right now. We've got asparagus and spring onions, greens, garlic scapes, lots of edible flowers like peonies. I often make rhubarb aid at this time of year with all the rhubarb. So you chop up rhubarb, put it in a jar, cover it with syrup, and let it macerate over a few days. It will create this beautiful pink syrup. And you can add some peony petals to the jar as well, especially if you have green rhubarb and you want to add a little boost of color and a little bit of a floral flavor, and then add that syrup to sparkling water or, gin, whatever you like.
Any other drinks that you'd recommend for a Canada Day menu?
Oh, I always like making a big batch, like a punch. If you have a mix of people coming over, some people are drinking, some people are not. You can add, have a bottle to spike it if you like, or leave it straight up. But my friend just made some lilac lemonade, but you could do that with the rhubarb as well. So many edible flowers right now that make a great simple syrup that you could just add to sparkling water.
So when you talk about the edible flowers, it feels like every summer we see various food trends suddenly coming to the fore. I mean, Stanley Tucci had us all drinking Negronis a year ago, right? So what food trends are you seeing this summer?
Well, one of the drinks that I've been seeing, I haven't tried it yet, but jalapenos in white wine, which is intriguing. And if you freeze jalapenos, which I often do just to preserve them, and you can chop them frozen, you can grate them over your eggs or over your, tacos or whatever you want, a little spice added to, you can grate a little bit of jalapeno into your white wine. I'm intrigued by this one. And I've been seeing a lot of icebox cakes. So the icebox cakes are made by layering packaged cookies, very thin, crisp cookies, and whipped cream, and then refrigerating or freezing it. And that softens the cookies, and then you can slice it. I like making one with stewed rhubarb, folded into whipped cream, and layered with Biscoff cookies, which I just love, or digestive cookies. Peak Friends has been making family digestive cookies in East York for 75 years, I believe. And so digestives, and then the stewed rhubarb and whipped cream, layer it in a loaf pan or shape it into a log, refrigerate it or freeze it for a few hours or overnight. It's a great thing to make ahead of time and then bring to a party or pull out when you need it.
That's great. Some great ideas. Thank you, Julie.
Thanks for having me.
That is Julie Van Rosendaal, food writer and cookbook author, joining us this morning from Calgary. Still to come here on Information Radio, our personal finance columnist says more Canadians are turning to credit cards to pay for everyday expenses, and that's leading to more delinquencies and higher debt loads. Our columnist has some solutions for people coming up after the news at 6:30.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg, and at 6:30 at 17 degrees, it is going to become sunny and muggy in Winnipeg today. The sky clearing out this morning, a high of 25. The humidex today, 28. A controversial recommendation in Carberry. What was meant to be an information session turned into a heated showdown over plans for the junction of the Trans-Canada and Highway 5 near Carberry last night. That's where 17 people died 2 years ago in Manitoba's worst bus crash. Many say the proposed R-cut, which restricts direct left turns and through traffic, would make the intersection even more dangerous. The executive director of Manitoba Highway Engineering Services, Dustin Boy, says an R-cut is the safest option and encourages people to keep an open mind.
Folks do get used to it once they've traveled it once or twice, and it still remains a safe alternative for us to consider here, and that's what we're here to propose to the community and to the government.
A petition against the proposed R-cut intersection has gained more than 2,100 signatures. Boy says the provincial government has the final say. Firefighters' work in Flin Flon doesn't end, even though people in the northern city are back at home. Jason Curis is fire chief in Flin Flon. His crews worked 18-hour days fighting back flames, which came right to the city's edge. Curis is thankful so many municipalities across the province were failure while she was gone. Macintosh Stallard says some of the water came from a sprinkler she left on to protect her home from fire.
I have a house. I feel like everyone in Flin Flon shares the same sentiment right now. Even if some of us had water damage, smoke damage, whatever, we're more worried about our neighbors in Denare Beach. That's how I feel. I think everyone feels the same. I feel lucky to have a home that I have to renovate.
Macintosh Stallard says it is going to be some time before she can reopen her restaurant. All the fresh produce she bought has spoiled. She's waiting now to hear if insurance will help cover her losses. U.S. senators are expected to learn more today about Donald Trump's rationale for bombing Iran's nuclear sites. The president's senior security officials are delivering a classified briefing to Congress. It comes as some senators question the president's decision to go ahead with the bombing and the effectiveness of those strikes. The Senate is also expected to vote this week on a resolution that would require congressional approval if Trump decides to strike Iran again. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Manitoba Public Insurance wants to raise rates next year by just over 2%. Chris Clausen is a lawyer with the Manitoba branch of the Consumers Association of Canada. He says MPI's ask sounds reasonable. He says his client appreciates the planned reduction in IT spending and no major hikes in staffing or operating costs. But Clausen says his client still needs to review whether MPI needs the rate hike it wants.
It'll come down to what we see in the hearing and what MPI's evidence shows with respect to their claims forecast and whether it's justifiable that they'll need these rate increases to cover their costs next year.
If the regulator approves the rate hike, the owner of an average private passenger vehicle would pay $21 more a year on their auto insurance. Manitoba's Auditor General has announced a value for money audit to review whether $1 billion in federal funding is actually creating more access to childcare spaces. The Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning is running the 5-year program, which started in 2021. The priorities for the first 2 years of that program were to reduce daycare fees to $10 a day and create 23,000 new childcare spaces by spring of 2026. The auditor also says he is still considering a request from the Deputy Minister of Education to review the construction of 22 daycares initiated by the previous PC government. A Winnipeg teen is using art to advocate for women and girls in Afghanistan. 13-year-old Satya Kashi and her family fled Afghanistan in 2021 after the country's government collapsed and the Taliban seized control. And as Manitoba's school year ends, she feels fortunate because her friends back home aren't allowed to get an education.
I take my education really seriously and take it as like a one chance in life, because so many people in Afghanistan, mostly girls, they don't have that chance, and I'm the lucky one.
In Afghanistan, the Taliban have stopped girls from going to school beyond grade 6. You can find more on all those stories on our website this morning. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, Heather, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at the forecast here across Manitoba. Abby is with us, keeping an eye on the radar and satellite pictures around the province. Hey, Abby.
Hi, Margot. We're just looking at the warm conditions that will be coming our way today. If you check the radar, it's all green, as you can see, just a few clouds here and there. From the south, tracking it all the way up north, it's going to be a warm day. Sun will be making its appearance in a lot of the areas, but there are some spots that will see clouds and some showers. We have that air quality warning in effect for Lynn Lake and nearby areas. Smoke from local forest fire still expected to bring poor air quality through the day in most of these regions. Now, when the smoke is heavy, it can affect everyone's health. So I'll just advise you might want to limit your outdoor times. What will today bring? Sunny in the south, clouds and showers likely in the northern regions. In Winnipeg at this time, 17 degrees, mostly cloudy. That cloudy conditions we're seeing, as you can see on the map there, it's beginning to clear, and we can see it's going to be moving away towards towards the Victoria Beach area. That's where we'll see those cloudy conditions roll to, and we'll see temperatures climb comfortably to a high of 25 degrees. However, with a humidex, it's going to be feeling close to 28. So with the winds will come, but it's not more like a cool one. It's going to be more like those warm breeze that will be coming your way. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, 13 degrees at this time, mostly cloudy skies. That should be clearing as you get into the morning. Similar to Winnipeg, warming close to 25, 26. Brandon is at 11. We're seeing mist in that part of the province. If you check it out, you see Brandon, Dauphin, and Portage. We're seeing cloudy conditions in that part of the province and misty skies. Those fog patches should be clearing as you get into the morning, and it's going to be given way to more like a sun and cloud. Later, we'll see high around 23, 24 for that region. In the Parkland region, Dauphin is sunny already at 10 degrees. We're going to see highs around 26. Gimli is at 10 degrees. Partly cloudy skies we're getting in that part of the region. The Interlake region will see the skies clear up, and then a mixture of warm sunny conditions and some cloudy conditions will be coming your way, also warming to 25. Now up north, we're tracking more cloudy skies that will be bringing a good chance of showers for the powerful influence even into Thompson this morning. We're already seeing temperatures around 14 degrees up north, except for Thompson, that is at 9 degrees at this time, also mostly cloudy, and a chance of showers in most of the region up north. So Winnipeg right now, we are just sitting at 17, and we may get close to 26 today, but the humidex is going to make you feel around 28 degrees.
It's been interesting the past few days. It's been just like that. You'd look at the temperature and think, oh, it's not that warm out, but then it feels like it's much warmer.
You look outside, you see the trees and the leaves dancing, and you think, oh, it's going to be cool outside, and then you step outside. No, it's not.
Yeah, very different. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra is back with us checking out traffic this morning.
Good morning. It is quiet out there. No calls on the commuter line so far. But if that is not the case, if there's anything slowing you down this morning, whether it is here in Winnipeg or out there on the highways, you can give me a call on the commuter line 204-788-3093.
It is 6:39. I'm Margot Watt in for Marcy this morning. She's busy getting ready for a very special show that's happening tomorrow. We'll tell you more about that throughout the program today. Right now, happy to welcome Crystalie Ramlakan with us for the Business Report. Hey, Crystalie.
Hey, good morning, Margot.
I know your first story has some optimistic news for the mail delivery sector. What can you tell us?
Yes, so delivery company DHL Express Canada has reached a tentative agreement with its union, paving the way for the company to resume operations. The deal comes after almost a year of negotiations, but details of the agreement will not be disclosed until after a ratification vote is held, which is expected in the coming days. Now, DHL locked out workers on June 8th and then last Friday halted operations. The company says it expects to lift that service suspension once the deal is ratified. And Unifor represents more than 2,100 truck drivers, couriers, and warehouse and clerical workers. And the company and the union have sparred over the use of replacement workers. And federal legislation banning the practice took effect during the work stoppage.
And we have a ruling from a judge, very interesting, a ruling on the side of AI in a lawsuit from authors. What details do you have on that?
Yeah, that's right. So a U.S. federal judge has ruled for Meta against a group of authors who argued the company used their books without permission to train AI. So the judge says the authors did not present enough evidence that Meta's AI would dilute the market for their work and then would be illegal under U.S. copyright law. And the judge says the ruling doesn't mean Meta's use of copyrighted materials was lawful, but that the plaintiffs made the wrong arguments in this case and then failed to develop enough support for the right ones. So the judge says using copyrighted work without permission to train AI would be unlawful in many circumstances. But you know what? Another judge in a separate lawsuit went kind of the other way this week. So that judge found that AI company Anthropic was able to use copyrighted materials under fair use rules. So going back to the first lawsuit that I was talking about, those authors sued Meta in 2023, arguing that the company misused pirated versions of their books to train its AI system without permission or compensation. And, it's just one of several copyright cases brought by writers, news outlets, and other copyright owners against companies including OpenAI, Microsoft, and Anthropic.
And Tesla is doing its first public robo-taxi test, and I understand we're seeing some issues.
So the trial that started in Austin, Texas this week has led to multiple traffic problems and driving mishaps. So issues include robo-taxis entering the wrong lane, dropping passengers off in the middle of multi-lane roads or at intersections, sudden braking, speeding, and driving over a curb. So in one instance, a robo-taxi drove into a lane meant for oncoming traffic for about 6 seconds. Now, Tesla is using human safety monitors in the front passenger seat, and one video shows the safety monitor hitting a button to stop a robo-taxi when a delivery truck in front of it started backing up. So I guess it was good that that person was there.
Thank goodness we have a button.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? The incidents caught on camera did not actually involve accidents. And one expert says some actually reflected a decision to focus on safety. So CEO Elon Musk has tied Tesla's financial future to this self-driving technology. With Tesla sales down, the stakes are high. He says Tesla is going to roll out service to other U.S. cities later this year and is predicting millions of Teslas operating fully autonomously by the second half of next year. But, it still appears there's some things to work out.
So it would seem. So what's happening on the market so far this morning?
In Europe, stocks are gaining. Germany is up. The UK is up. France is up. In Asia, Japanese stocks have hit a 5-month high. Japan is up. Shanghai and Hong Kong are both down. Oil is up 27 cents to $65.19 US per barrel. Gold is up $7.95 to $3,339.06 US per ounce. And the dollar is up 0.21 of a cent to 73.1 cents US.
Krista Lee, thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, Margot.
That was Krista Lee Ramlakan with the Business News. Well, as you probably know, paying your full credit card balance each month ensures you won't incur any interest charges. However, new data from leading credit reporting agencies shows that more Canadians are struggling to make even the minimum payment. Personal finance columnist Rubina Amanhak explains how this can severely affect your financial health and offers some advice
to pay them off. We, as an organization, are concerned at where Canadians are at with their credit right now and how difficult that's going to be for them in their repayment strategies.
Amanda Martin is the interim director of partnerships and education at the Credit Counseling Society. As a CFP, she works every day with Canadians grappling to pay down their debt. Several factors are leading Canadians to miss their credit card payments right now.
The rising costs of just those essential things that people need to use have created a need for people to use credit maybe where they weren't using it before. And I think that's been creeping up. And as, balances get higher, it maybe indicates that people are getting to a point where, they're running out of that credit to use and it's time for repayment. And that's where delinquency comes in as well.
The first thing we're concerned about is the rising balances because this increases the financial exposure for consumers.
Amir Sikandar is Director of Business Consulting at FICO, an analytics software firm that works with companies to predict consumer behavior. Credit card use makes up part of their research. They have been seeing some worrying trends among Canadian credit card users too. Like Equifax, they find delinquencies are up and credit card utilization is rising as well. This is the percentage of credit limits users are accessing. Generally, using more than 30% of your monthly credit limit can indicate financial trouble.
Once we isolate utilization for certain customer segments, that definitely is rising. So that indicates growing financial strain, especially when paired with rising balances and weakening payment rates.
Sikandar says this, along with rising delinquencies, can have a major impact on your ability to access debt in the future.
When it comes to payment history, it's one of the top factors when calculating, a person's credit scores.
Both experts say the rising cost of living, pandemic-era mortgage renewals in a higher rate environment, and rising unemployment are all contributing to more Canadians relying on credit cards to afford day-to-day life. CFP Martin has this advice for anyone struggling to make a monthly credit card payment.
If someone needs to carry or has a higher balance on their credit cards, first thing I would say would be, stop adding to the balance. Get some help, look at your budget, but stop using the credit. Secondly, make consistent payments on time and every month. Don't skip a payment. If possible, make more than your minimum payments in order to help the amount of time that you'll be paying that debt off.
Sikandar points out that the financial pressure is most pronounced among borrowers with thinner financial profiles or limited banking relationships. He's recommending to his business clients that they make more efforts to provide financial education, early engagement, and flexible payment options to help those struggling the most. Regardless, both experts say speaking to a professional about your debt situation may be the best way to get your payments on track and improve your overall financial health. For CBC Radio, I'm Rubina Ahmed-Haq.
This Canada Day, join CBC for an all-day party. From sun up to sundown. From coast to coast to coast. We'll be across the country celebrating all things Canada.
That's what it's all about, freedom to be Canadians.
Wrapping up with a giant live concert from the nation's capital. Canada Day 2025 on CBC. It's a Canada thing.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
It is 17 degrees in Winnipeg. 6:49 is the time. Good morning. If you're just joining us, I'm Margot Watt, sitting in for Marcy today. And thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. Now that summer is here, you might be looking to cool off, perhaps at the lake or the pool, or maybe even going boating. Every year, many Canadians we know, unfortunately, drown under circumstances that are preventable. To talk more about this, we have Pamela Fuseli with us, the CEO of Parachute. This is a charity dedicated to preventing serious injury and death. Good morning.
Good morning, Margot.
What do we know about what types of bodies of water are the most dangerous, particularly for children?
Yeah, as you can imagine, lakes and rivers, natural bodies of water, comprise the biggest number of deaths. But for young kids under 5, backyard pools are the most common place where drownings happen. And they happen when the kids aren't meant to be swimming, which means they're getting access to the pool without their parent or caregiver knowing that they're out there.
And maybe at a friend's house, they're not used to being around a pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. For adults, what are some of the contributing factors we know that can be leading to drowning?
Yeah, for adults, we see intoxication, so alcohol use, when they're swimming alone, when they're not wearing a life jacket or a PFD, and when they are weak swimmers. And, some of those may be in combination, not just standalone factors.
What do we know about the recent data? What does it tell us about the incidence of drowning?
Yeah, in Manitoba, we see about an average of 25 drowning deaths every year.
And what do we need to know when we talk about prevention?
So for children, if you're talking about backyard pools, installing a fence between the house and the pool is essential to give a layer of protection, we call it. So buying parents sometimes to realize their kids aren't where they thought they were or should be, and slowing down access to the pool. So a 1.2 meter high climbing resistant fourth-sided fence with a self-closing, self-latching gate. In an incident, having access to a phone, having a reaching pole or a ring buoy attached to a rope so that you can react. Knowing just generally for kids, keeping them within sight and arm's reach around any kind of water. So in, on, and around. And making sure that you also know how to swim. Your kids should know how to swim, but so should parents. And they should also be trained in CPR and first aid. For adults, don't swim alone. Use the buddy system. Don't swim when you're under the influence, intoxicated, and wear a life jacket or a PFD when you're on a boat or a board. I liken it to seatbelts. You can't put a seatbelt on as a crash is happening, and you won't have time to put your life jacket on in an emergency.
When we talk about the importance of swimming lessons, we also know that they often are not accessible to everyone. So what other resources are available for people who do need to learn how to swim but perhaps can't get access to lessons?
Yeah, in person, in the water lessons are obviously the best. But the Life Saving Society does have online resources that talk about breathing in water, different swimming strokes, those types of things. So people can access great resources on the Life Saving Society website.
I have a memory I'll share with you when I was very young and we were on a school trip. And we were at the lake. Kids are swimming. I think we're in about grade, probably 5 or 6. And I suddenly just noticed one of the kids sort of flailing about in the water. And I said to the teacher, hey, look at so-and-so, like what's going on there? And I wasn't really aware of what was going on, but I knew something was happening. And I'll never forget the teacher just dropped what he was holding, jumped into the water and saved the little boy. So he was starting to drown. But we know that often these situations can be happening and we're not aware. We don't really see or understand what's happening. So it can happen so quickly.
It can, and most often it's silent. So unlike the movies where we see people making a lot of noise and it takes a while, you're not likely to actually hear somebody who's drowning. You were really fortunate that you were in sight of
just happened to see him.
Boy.
Yeah,
exactly. So you won't hear somebody in trouble and have time to react. And that's why we say, especially for kids, be within our sight and arm's reach, and for adults, swim with a buddy.
Great advice. Pamela, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That is Pamela Fuselli, CEO of Parachute. That's a national charity dedicated to preventing serious injuries.
Been called a sweetheart and the apple of your eye. Been called a vixen and a tramp and everything. seen. But you can call me queen. 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 Been calling mother and sister since the dawn of time. Been called troublemaker, I don't ever stay in line. Been called self-stuck, I don't play well on teams. Been called all kind of things, never what I seen. But you can call me queen. 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 You can call me queen.
I like that. Just call me Queen. Thank you very much. The artist there is Ann Didio. Right now, 6:57, and let's get the latest from our Winnipeg newsroom with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, tensions boiled over at a public open house last night in Carberry over plans to redesign the intersection of the Trans-Canada and Highway 5. That is where 17 people died in a bus crash 2 years ago. People packed that meeting angry over Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure's recommendation for an R-cut, a restricted crossing U-turn. Many say it'll just make that intersection more dangerous. And firefighters' work in Flin Flon does not end, even though people in the northern city are back home. Jason Curis, fire chief for Flin Flon, says his crews worked 18-hour days fighting back flames, which came right to the city's edge. More Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Traffic-wise, a quiet morning so far out on the streets of Winnipeg. But if you do have any updates for us, we welcome your calls at 788-3093. The forecast for Winnipeg clearing today with a high of 25. With the humidex, it will feel even warmer than that this afternoon, more like 28 degrees. Again, we have some cloud right now over the downtown and 17 degrees. Still to come here on the program. Picture this, you need to catch the bus, but instead of checking the schedule or hanging at the bus stop, you just call 311 and a bus comes to pick you up. Well, it sounds like a dream, doesn't it? But one advocate for people living with disabilities fears that the service may cause more trouble than it's worth. We'll explore that after the news at 7. I'm Margot Watt in for Marcy this morning. Great to have you with us. World Report is up next.
Today on The Current.
I believe it was total obliteration. I believe they didn't have a chance to get anything out because we acted fast.
I'm Susan Ormiston. It's not clear at this point how much damage U.S. bombs caused to Iran's nuclear capability. But no matter how deep the destruction, the geopolitical ripple effects will be profound. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
تبریک پیروزی بر رژیم جعلی صهیونیست.
Iran's supreme leader congratulates his people for what he says was the nation's victory over the Zionist regime. Ali Khamenei is making his first statement this morning since the ceasefire between Iran and Israel. And it comes on the same day U.S. lawmakers are expecting a briefing on U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to strike nuclear sites in Iran. Tom Perry is following the story from London. And Tom, what is Ali Khamenei saying?
Well, we've now heard from Iran's supreme leader. He's not been seen or heard from in days. He surfaced this morning and he put out a series of statements on social media. And they read, I offer my congratulations on the victory over the fallacious Zionist regime. The Zionist regime, he says, was practically knocked out and crushed under the blows of the Islamic Republic. He goes on to say that the U.S. regime entered the war in an effort to save Israel, but achieved nothing. The Islamic Republic, he says, delivered a heavy slap to the U.S.'s face. It attacked and inflicted damage on the U.S. air base, one of the key U.S. air bases in the region. So Iran's supreme leader there claiming victory in his country's fight with Israel. And the U.S. probably aimed mostly there at a domestic audience for the people of Iran, but also putting on a brave face, I think, to the international community after this fight.
And tell us more about today's intelligence briefing.
Well, we are expecting a briefing from the U.S. Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. He's expected to reveal more information about just how much damage the U.S. caused in its strikes against those Iranian nuclear facilities. There was, of course, this initial report leaked to the U.S. media that suggested the damage was not all that severe. U.S. President Donald Trump reacted very strongly to that. He called it fake news. Now, we have heard from the director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe. He issued a statement saying the CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by the recent targeted strikes. He says several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed and will have to be rebuilt over the course of years. So the CIA director really backing up his boss's version of the story there. We've heard Donald Trump talking about the possibility of speaking with Iranian officials. No confirmation of that from Iran. And we've heard calls from countries, including Canada, for a return to negotiations and for Iran to be transparent about its nuclear program.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
The CBC's Tom Perry reporting in London. There is anguish and outrage in the occupied West Bank. Palestinians buried 3 men there overnight. They were killed by Israeli settlers who attacked and set fire to their community near Ramallah. Rights groups say extremist settler violence has surged in the West Bank. Chris Brown reports from Jerusalem.
Cars were left smoldering and homes scorched by fire after a rampage by extremist Jewish settlers, says Talat Sami, an eyewitness from the town of Kafir Malik. They attacked women and children, and when the young man went out to defend his family, they shot him in the head without reason. The bodies of 3 Palestinians were later taken to hospitals in nearby Ramallah, accompanied by angry, chanting crowds. Over the long years of Israel's military occupation, settlers have deliberately encroached on Palestinian communities, and violence is now a near daily occurrence, say Israeli and Palestinian human rights groups. But the war in Gaza has inflamed tensions even more, leading to military raids and crackdowns by Israel. Earlier in the day, its troops shot and killed a 15-year-old boy near Jenin, and a 13-year-old was killed in Kafir Malik on Monday. Many of the settlers are part of the Israeli military and armed with automatic weapons. Canada recently sanctioned 2 of Israel's most senior cabinet ministers for contributing to a more permissive environment for settler attacks. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Mexico's top court is ordering the case file on 43 missing students to be publicly released. The students disappeared from Ayotzinapa Rural Teachers College in 2014. It's considered one of the country's worst human rights violations. Since then, the case has been fraught with missteps and interference from officials. Mexico's former top prosecutor was arrested in 2022 in relation to the disappearances. The court hasn't given a deadline for the file's release. Prime Minister Mark Carney's major projects bill could pass the Senate as early as today. Bill C-5 passed quickly through Parliament, but senators are raising some concerns about the legislation. For more, let's go to Rafi Boudjikanian in our Parliamentary Bureau. And Rafi, why is this bill so controversial?
Well, essentially, it gives Cabinet the ability to pick a winner among major nation-building projects to have them pass quickly through any regulations. The government has not specifically outlined what projects it has in mind, but it's spoken of national energy corridors, and that's a really broad term. It could include pipelines, mining or port facilities, or electricity grids. For critics, though, the how is the issue. Once the government decides a project is in the national interest, ministers can skirt some laws to make it easier to build. Laws like, say, the Liberals' own environmental protection legislation, the Impact Assessment Act. Now, C5 passed quickly through the House of Commons with the help of the Conservatives, but the smaller NDP and Bloc Québécois caucuses have shown a lot of opposition, and beyond Parliament Hill, so have Indigenous groups, the Assembly of First Nations, among others, raising concerns the government won't adequately consult them before approving projects going through their lands.
So how likely is it to pass the Senate today?
Well, it's being debated. There is a certain amount of pressure on the upper body to pass this legislation by Friday at the latest. At least that's what the government is hoping for. It wants the bill passed before Canada Day. Now, one senator, Paul Prosper, has told CBC News he intends to introduce an amendment that would reinforce and protect free, prior, and informed consent by Indigenous people into C5. We haven't seen that amendment introduced yet, but that could potentially delay the bill's final approval. If the amendment passes, MPs would then have to debate in the House of Commons, and they've already left for the summer.
Thank you, Rafi.
You're welcome.
Rafi Boudjikanian reporting from Ottawa. Budapest's mayor says the city is pushing ahead with its annual Pride March. The Metropolitan Police banned it earlier this month, and in February, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban passed a law allowing police to block LGBTQ events. It says promotion of Pride events violates child protection laws. But in Budapest, thousands of people dispute that.
Orpaszájba megy ez a gyerekvédelmi törvény miatt történő.
Laura Toth says the ban makes her worry about holding her girlfriend's hand in public. The Pride March will now be held as a municipal event, placing it under the city's authority. But police say the law still applies. Tens of thousands of people are expected to take part on Saturday. The United States legalized same-sex marriage 10 years ago today. Now, many Americans are reflecting on what the landmark Supreme Court ruling means to them. But as Steve Futterman reports, others are worried a changing political climate could harm the future of the law.
It is very hard to overestimate what this decision meant to same-sex couples who for years wanted the right to marry.
In my lifetime, our government, the United States of America, decided that I was a full citizen.
John D'Amico was part of the movement that fought to legalize same-sex marriage. He is the former mayor of West Hollywood, which has one of the largest percentages of gay and lesbian residents in the U.S. James Campbell says the ruling literally changed his life.
Sure, I got married. So yeah, see?
A decade later, a significant majority of Americans now support same-sex marriage. Kim Jimenez is 20. She doesn't remember when same-sex marriage was illegal.
10 years is something to celebrate. So to finally be able to, see people be in love and be married legally, I think is beautiful.
Paul Katami was a plaintiff in one of the major same-sex marriage cases prior to the Supreme Court ruling. His case made gay marriage legal in California. 2 years later, it was legal in every state.
The 10th anniversary is so important because it's a milestone of our rights becoming true.
While many are celebrating today, others are concerned that in the current U.S. political climate, there could be rulings in the future that might threaten same-sex marriage. Steve Futterman for CBC News, West Hollywood, California.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning. I'm Margot Watt in for Marcy Marcusa this morning, and welcome to Information Radio. Coming up in this hour of the program, Winnipeg Transit has some big changes coming next week. One of them is an expansion of the Request a Bus service for riders. On the surface, sounds like a great idea, but one disabilities advocate worries that it will be more confusing than helpful. They were forced out by wildfires for nearly 4 weeks, and now Flin Flon residents can finally sleep in their own beds. Evacuees were allowed back into the northern city yesterday. We'll hear from one of them coming up. Also, we'll talk to a business owner, get their reaction following a brutal attack on an international student that happened the other night in Osborne Village. You're with Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the CBC Listen app, and watching on YouTube. With the very latest from our Winnipeg newsroom, here again is Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, what was meant to be an information session turned into a heated showdown over plans for the junction of the Trans-Canada and Highway 5 near Carberry. A public meeting last night where the people from Carberry were told about a proposed R-cut, which restricts direct left turns and through traffic, which Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure says would make the intersection safer. The people who live in Carberry disagree. We'll hear what happened in that heated public meeting. As well, Manitoba Public Insurance wants to raise rates next year by just over 2%. Chris Clausen, the lawyer for the Manitoba branch of the Consumers Association, says MPI's ask sounds reasonable. We'll hear about it coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Abby is keeping an eye on the weather for us. Good morning, Abby.
Good morning again, Margaret. It's shaping to be a warm day overall. There's plenty of sunshine to go around across the southern part of the province, while the north is still seeing cloudy conditions with that slight chance of showers in the mix there. We have that air quality warning in place for Lynn Lake and surrounding areas due to smoke from nearby forest fires. Now, the smoke will be affecting people in that area once it sweeps in, so you need to take care. Winnipeg right now, 17 degrees and mostly cloudy. We're seeing the sun already poke through those cloudy skies, and that should clear as you get into the morning. The sun will take over, bringing a warm and pleasant afternoon. We'll see highs around 25, but the humidity is going to make it feel like 28 degrees today with some winds coming from the south. It gets breezy at some point. Now, across the southern regions, stretching from Brandon all the way to Darwin and into the Interlake region, we're seeing a mild morning also with temperatures. Some regions already seeing 17 degrees, some regions still around 10 degrees. The skies are starting to clear, and it's going to be more like a sunny weather expected right across the region, warming to 27 in most of this region, and the humidex is also going to make it feel close to that 28, 29. Up north, we're seeing 11 degrees and 14 degrees in most parts. But right now, Winnipeg, we are currently at 17 degrees.
All right, Abby, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's get an update on traffic and various issues to keep in mind today. Here's Sierra.
Good morning. Still pretty quiet out there. Haven't received any calls on the commuter line, so things are moving smoothly out there. But I wanted to remind folks there is a Bomber game tonight, so we can expect some increased traffic around Princess Audio Stadium. There's some construction on University Crescent and on southbound at Pembina heading towards the stadium, which has been causing delays during rush hours, and I think on the daily for most folks there.
On the daily, for sure.
On the
I know
daily?
that. Yeah.
Okay. So be patient with your fellow commuters and expect some delays in that area, especially. And you can probably expect some delays with the Bomber, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
The Bomber buses?
The Bomber buses? The shuttles?
The shuttles.
There
That's
you
the
go.
word I was looking for. So be patient on your shuttles. They might take a little bit longer than usual. But if there's anything slowing you down this morning, whether you're here in Winnipeg or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
Well, one of the changes to Winnipeg Transit next week will be its on-request service. Right now, riders can essentially order a bus on demand in certain neighborhoods where fewer bus routes exist. But starting on Sunday, the service will expand from 2 areas to 12. And the city hopes that the service will also be easier to use. The way it works, riders can request a ride through an app or call 311 and then go to a bus stop to be picked up. But the city's website says the wait could be as long as 20 minutes. Melissa Graham is Executive Director of the Manitoba League of Persons with a Disability, and she has concerns about the new service. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Oh, thanks for joining us. First of all, what have you been hearing, Melissa, from Winnipeggers who are living with disabilities about the coming transit changes?
Well, I think that's part of the problem now is we haven't been hearing too much. I think a lot of people in our community are really concerned about the changes. I mean, these changes are going to be confusing for Winnipeggers who use transit broadly, but when we think about people that have accessibility barriers that really need to plan out their trips, I think what we're not hearing is a lot of information about these changes and the ways that people need to hear them. I know there's been information session. I mean, we ourselves at MLPD have hosted one. But when you're talking about particularly about these zones, there's something right there we're not hearing very much about. Um, a lot of people with disabilities really, if they take the regular transit system, they do that because they really know their routes well. I know myself as a mainstream transit user, I tend to stick with the same routes, and it's kind of the same bus drivers that see me over time, and it becomes comfortable. You know which bus routes are less crowded. You know when they're going to come. All that pre-planning is really important for people with disabilities, I think, regardless of what your impairments are. So when it comes to these zones, I think really we need more information and there's a lot of inconsistencies between them that I worry are going to be challenging for folks. But maybe I'll be wrong, and maybe they could be something, but it's really hard to tell on a system that, isn't available yet. But so far, we're not getting a lot of information.
And I guess that sounds like one of the biggest concerns you have. You're just not hearing enough details to really know what it's going to be like.
Yeah, even the fact that they're named zones has been confusing for people. I got calls from people at MLPD who thought that this was going to be a little bit like, the zone system they have in Vancouver, where people get charged differently depending on what zone they're traveling, and which is not the case at all, but it's one of the confusions about them being named zones, and it speaks to the fact, yes, they've had the zone system on the previous transit system, but it wasn't broadly used across the city. So now to implement that in a bunch of different neighborhoods when there wasn't a lot of uptake, I'm not sure what the thinking was behind that. I'm not a transit designer, so maybe there's something there that I'm not seeing. I'm sure it will be helpful for some folks, but it occurs to me when you have a on-request bus route that's only available at certain times of the day at certain neighborhoods, I don't know that that meshes well with how people typically use their transit system. As someone who sometimes uses the regular transit system myself, you get used to just, waiting on certain routes. You know that a bus is going to arrive at a certain time. You learn to make your connections. For mainstream transit users, taking that extra step to make a phone call or use an app may not fit well with how.
Is part of the concern the fact that as they roll out the expansion of this service, it will be in different areas of the city at different times that it's available? Is that part of your concern?
Yeah, like it's not consistent across the neighborhoods, so you can't very easily remember, okay, like for the regular transit system, we know the hours that it operates, right? We know in certain times of day you're going to get a transit trip, the bus is going to come. But if you're in a different neighborhood and you're trying to make an on-request trip, you have to remember the specific time of the day that your on-request route in your neighborhood is functioning. That's asking folks to take an extra step. And then on top of that, either calling 311 or using the on-request app. That's a lot of labor to put on the Transit Plus user when what we're trying to do is encourage increased use. It seems to me that if you want more transit riders, you make it as easy as possible for the transit riders to get on that bus. You don't make them go through extra steps. Now, I don't want to disparage this for anyone who's really looking forward to having an on-request route on their neighborhood. I mean, there's probably people here listening to me who are looking forward to their on request route. I hear from some seniors that it's going to make it easier to like get to their grocery stores and things. That's not what concerned me. When you see those routes are available like late at night, you know someone's going to be out there late at night waiting for their on request route for 20 minutes, right? Hoping they booked it properly. Whereas with a regular transit route, as long as you're within transit hours, you know that bus is going to show up.
I know
you don't have to worry about whether you made a mistake.
Right, and suddenly it's night, it's dark, and you're wondering, okay, is it still coming? Now, you were part of the consultation program, your group, and you've mentioned how you wish there was just more information, better information coming from the city. What recommendations did you give to the city about all this, and do you feel that you were heard?
So the Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities were part of a group of like disability organizations, stakeholders that were met with. I know across all of us, one of the things we were worried about was the lack of communication, because what we're talking about is really overhauling our transit system overnight. As has been mentioned many times, we're gonna go to bed one night, it's gonna be one system. We wake up the next morning and it's switched over to the other. Now, we haven't seen that happen in too many cities. But I've lived in other communities where even to change a singular route, you are promoting that route as broadly as you can in as many different communication formats as you can because you want people on that bus, right? So you're putting out maps that are available out on the street. You've got it in paper. You've got it electronically. You've made it as easily available and as low barrier as you possibly can. And I mean, some of these steps and things we are doing, but why add extra layers of complication? What worries me is they say they're putting these routes in areas where they're not providing as many buses. Why would we remove buses or not add buses in neighborhoods where, having a regular transit system might be less barriers for people and add in a system where we're asking people to take extra steps? I'm not sure what the thinking was behind that, but it seems to me if we're going to do that, we need to be loud and clear about what that's doing. We need to make sure it's something that people in those neighborhoods want. It's going to be accessible for them. It's going to take them where they need to go. Maybe that's happened, but if it has, I haven't heard about that happening. And I've been paying attention. I'm really concerned about the uptake. And, you never want this to come back and say, well, people in Winnipeg, they're not using transit, so therefore we don't need to invest money in transit either, right? If this turns into a system where we wind up with less transit users, then what was the purpose? We want people, and especially people with disabilities, to feel comfortable using their public transit system. That's what it's there for. It's there for the broad public. So we want to make it as low barrier to use as we possibly can. And it's dependent on apps and making phone calls. That's not low barrier to me. But as I say, I don't want to disparage for anyone who's actually looking forward to it. I just think there should be as many options for as many people as we possibly can. And on top of that, I've also been hearing that many people with disabilities are going to have longer to walk to get to their bus stops. I don't know if this is a response to that, but I don't think one replaces the other.
Melissa, great to have you with us, and we'll check in with you perhaps in the coming days as the new system rolls out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is Melissa Graham, Executive Director of the Manitoba League of Persons with a Disability. At 7:25, you're with Information Radio here on CBC. Great to have you with us. I'm Margot Watt, in for Marcy. She's back tomorrow with a special show. We'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Right now, the very special Scott Reguer is here with a look at sports. Hey, Scott.
Well, that's a nice lead in, Margot.
Hey?
Good morning.
Oh, good morning to you. So, what will you be watching as the Bombers host Edmonton tonight?
Streaks all over the place. First of all, there's the winning run the Bombers are on, albeit a modest one at 2-0 to start the season, but they'll take it after not having such a streak to start the season last time around. The Bombers also, remember, have not lost to Edmonton in 5 years, not since 2018. In a league like this of near constant roster turnover, that's a run of success against a single franchise that's almost unheard of. But there is one more streak on the line. Oak Park alum Nick Demskis. He has a record of 73 games in a row with at least one catch. That's the longest active run in the league. Zach Collaros, who will be tasked with slinging passes to Demski, was asked if he's aware of his star receiver's run.
I love Nick, so yeah, I know. He's going to get a catch. In all seriousness, Nick doesn't play that way. You know, he's one of the more unselfish people I've ever been around. The amount of times that he's assisted on catches for people is countless. So he doesn't play the game that way. I'm half joking about all that. But yeah, he's, in my opinion, you got to get the ball in his hands, right? Find ways to get him touches. So he's going to have his catches.
Just half joking?
Just half joking.
There is a chance, Margot, that Claris won't even get a chance to throw him a pass tonight. Demski didn't practice earlier this week and is listed as a game-time decision with an ankle ailment. Kickoff tonight, 7:30.
I half joke all the time. Gets me into a lot of trouble. So the NHL draft goes tonight. What will you be watching there?
Well, the Jets currently have the 28th overall pick, Margot. Historically, not a lot of big names have been selected in that spot, although Corey Perry and Justin Williams were both 28th overall picks. One name I have seen available around there is defenseman Blake Fiddler, who is the son of Vernon Fiddler, who used to play in the league for many years. So we'll watch for that. We'll also watch the top of the draft, where there should be quite a bit of emotion. Matthew Schaefer is the presumptive first overall pick. He is a defenseman with the Erie Otters. Last year, Margot, he lost his mom, Jennifer, to breast cancer. In a video the NHL has put out, Schaefer spoke about always keeping her in his thoughts.
I remember going up and talking to her and going, Mom, I'm going to go out there and work as hard as I can for you. I'm going to make you happy. We're going to do it. It makes me happy to be able to talk about her. And I know she's, right beside me in spirit and has a front row seat to every hockey game. And, I have someone I can play for that extra little bit now.
Schaefer has a picture of his mom on the inside of the checkered blazer you'll see him wearing tonight, along with embroidered ladybugs. Matthew says he kept seeing ladybugs right after his mom passed away. So that's a story to watch. The Islanders with the first overall pick tonight.
Oh, wow. Very moving. Now, finally, the Raptors surprised many with their first-round draft pick last night, including the pick himself.
With the 9th pick in the 2025 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Colin Murray Boyles.
The commissioner had barely uttered those words, Margot, when Colin Murray Boyles shook his head and then let out a curse word. Many online pointed out the University of South Carolina star looked upset to be picked by the Raptors. Given the franchise's history of being spurned from Vince Carter to Chris Bosh to Kawhi Leonard, it's an understandable take. But Murray Boyles says his draft night reaction, well, it's being misconstrued.
Just disbelief. What I said was not a bad thing by any means. Just very thankful for it. That was like a surreal moment to hear my name called and by this organization that has a good history and have really good players as of right now. It was just a crazy moment. Obviously thankful for the opportunity that they give me and taking it full on. I'm ready to do whatever they need me to do.
What the Raptors need Murray Boyles to do is defend. That was his forte as a college freshman, where along with 16 points a game, he averaged at least one steal and one block every game, too. They'll also need him to be more careful about providing fodder for social media naysayers.
Yeah, watch your reactions. Yeah. Scott, thanks very much.
You bet.
That is Scott Regehr with CBC Sports. We're at 17 degrees here in Winnipeg. Time now for the CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. The sky is clearing. We're going to get sunny. We're going to get muggy. A high today of 25, but the humidex will feel like 28. Push back in Carberry.
who do not agree with you, that live here and use it every day and know just how stupid this idea is. So listen to us now.
Tensions boiling over at a public open house last night in Carberry over plans to redesign the intersection of the Trans-Canada and Highway 5. That is where 17 people died in a 2023 bus crash. People from the area packed that meeting, angry over Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure's recommendation to install an R-cut, a restricted crossing U-turn. Tyson Boychuk worries it will delay emergency response times.
I just don't understand how that's not going to add response time. It worries me because our emergency isn't always open. It's not open every day of the week. So sometimes we have to go to Brandon. And so, to have that extra response and to have to go around and make that U-turn, it worries me.
Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure says the R-cut design is the preferred recommendation. The final decision rests with the provincial government. A Flin Flon homeowner who fled fire returned to a flood.
MPI is a corporation in the midst of a recovery.
Ainsley McIntosh Stallard had a foot of water in her basement. Her sump pump shorted out during a power failure while she was gone. She says despite the water damage, she has had the best 2 nights sleep she's had in a long time. She was allowed to return earlier this week because she owns a restaurant. It's going to be some time before she can reopen, though. All the fresh produce she bought before the evacuation spoiled. She is still waiting to hear if insurance is going to cover her losses. A specialized crew of 8 firefighters from the U.S. are still in Flin Flon battling the wildfire, even though people have returned. David Otway is one of the incident commanders. He is here from Utah. Otway has never fought a wildfire so large and so complex. He says crews have been able to mop up a 90-meter wide buffer around the outskirts of Flin Flon.
Which means there's no heat left within that first 90 meters. And we're very confident, yes, there will be smoke continuing, maybe till the snow flies and doesn't melt, we don't know. But it is a long duration wildfire event, so there will be smoke showing for a very long time.
Otway says at one point that fire did reach the edge of Flin Flon city limits. A classified congressional briefing is underway this hour in Washington on Donald Trump's rationale for bombing Iran's nuclear sites. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is answering questions on the president's decision to go ahead with those strikes and precisely what was accomplished. And the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is also outlining what happened during that operation. You can hear more on that story as well as more national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A lawyer representing consumers says MPI's application for rate hike seems reasonable. The Crown Corporation wants a rate hike of just over 2% next year. Chris Clausen says there are parts of the application the Manitoba branch of the Consumers Association of Manitoba is pleased with, like a reduction in IT spending and no significant increases in staffing or operating costs. This for an organization that has faced turmoil and an external review in recent years.
MPI is a corporation in the midst of a recovery. There are promising signs, but we still need to make sure there are good plans in place to protect consumers' interests moving forward.
The Consumers Association plans to do that at an upcoming public hearing this fall, and that will determine if MPI needs the rate hike it's asking for. 13-year-old Sateus Kashi uses art to advocate for women and girls in Afghanistan. Her family moved to Winnipeg more than 3 years ago after the country's government collapsed and the Taliban seized control. But Kashi often thinks of the classmates and friends she left behind, most who are not able to go to school. In an effort to spread awareness, she uses art to tell their stories.
I want to break the silence because so many of these people don't know their stories. They don't know what's going on. And someone got to tell them.
The Taliban have stopped girls from going to school beyond grade 6. His name is Villeneuve, Denis Villeneuve. No No release date has been set, but Quebec's Denis Villeneuve has been announced as the director for the next James Bond movie. Villeneuve is no stranger to big, ambitious projects. He is currently shooting the third and final Dune film, and from there, he will concentrate on Bond. And as director and executive producer, he'll have a say in who will play 007 this time around. Daniel Craig, who has starred in the last 5 James Bond films, has walked away from the franchise, and his replacement has yet to be determined. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
I wonder who the next Bond will be.
You know, it's not, I wonder, I mean, they're talking about, will it be a more diverse selection?
Mm-hmm. Might it be a woman?
What about, Jane Bond?
It's been discussed, but knowing that Villeneuve is going to be the director, I think that's amazing. You see what he's done with Dune and so many other projects.
He's quite brilliant.
It's going to be brilliant, yeah. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Maybe Heather will be the next Bond. She's pretty crafty.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a look at the forecast now with Abby.
It's going to be a warm day across the province with sunshine in the south, and we see more clouds roll up north. Showers possible and even some thunderstorms. We may feel that in the northern part of the province. Now, before we get into the full forecast, I need to tell you about this air quality warning in effect for Lynn Lake and nearby areas. Now, this is due to smoke from local forest fires, which is really causing poor air quality. So we've been feeling that in that region since early yesterday, and I'd advise when the smoke is thick, you should really take care of yourself. Conditions in Winnipeg at this time, we are starting the morning at 17 degrees. Skies are beginning to clear. We saw some cloudy conditions earlier, but it's really clearing quickly. And by mid-morning, we'll see sunshine take over. We're heading for a warm high of 25 today. The winds will be mild coming from the south, making it a pleasant afternoon. In the Pembina Valley region, Modern, Winkler, Altoona, Morris, all the way down to the Emerson borders, we're seeing current conditions much like Winnipeg, 14 degrees also, with the skies also clearing. Today's forecast says expect plenty of sunshine and a high of 25, with the humidex making it feel close to 28, 29. Now we head to the Westman region. Brandon is currently mostly cloudy at 14 degrees, but we're expecting a mix of sun and clouds by the afternoon period. Winds will be coming from the south, feeling mild to breezy, and we'll see highs around 23. In the Parkland region, Dauphin and surrounding areas, we're seeing a sunny start at 13 degrees right now. We saw some fog patches there earlier. That's clearing. Then we're going to see a mix of sun and clouds. High will be around 26. Gimli, good morning. You are currently at 14 with sunshine breaking through. The Interlake region should expect more like a bright and warm afternoon. High reaching 25. The powerful influence surrounding areas, we're seeing cloudy conditions at this time. The skies will stay mostly cloudy. Temperatures around 14 at this time. We'll have a good chance of showers and thunderstorms during the afternoon period. You'll be warming close to 25, but with the humidex factored in, it will be feeling like 29 degrees for folks in that region. Thompson, 11. And mostly cloudy at this time. Also, cloud cover is going to increase through the morning. We have a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms. Also in the forecast, high around 25. And then Churchill, 14 degrees at this time. The day brings a mix of sun and clouds. High also near 25 degrees. So across board, it's more like sunny and warm across the south and cloudier up north with rain possible. And most regions will see highs close to 25 degrees today.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra is keeping an eye on the drive into work this morning. Hey there.
Good morning. Still pretty quiet out there. No calls on the commuter line. So things are moving smoothly out there, but wanted to remind folks there's a Bomber game going on tonight. So expect some increased traffic around Princess Audio Stadium. There is some, as many people know, or as some know, there is construction on University Crescent and on southbound Pembina heading towards the stadium. So be patient with your fellow commuters and expect some delays in that area. And expect maybe a little bit longer on the Bomber shuttles coming from around the city. If there's anything slowing you down out there, whether you are here in Winnipeg or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
And we have more reaction this morning to the random attack on an international student. It happened in Osborne Village Sunday night. As we reported earlier, a 23-year-old woman was left with multiple stab wounds and has had a number of surgeries so far, including one on her eye. The victim, Tanpreet, is recovering in hospital. Ramandeep is her sister-in-law. The CBC agreed to use just their first names because they they fear for their safety. The CBC's Felicia Adams spoke to Ramandeep about how Tanpreet is coping since the attack.
She's so innocent, like she's so soft. But after this incident, like I find her, she's so strong, like who can like bear this kind of pain, she's still so strong, like she's here, but like she's recovering, she's so strong, she's so brave, like she's here, like everybody coming and asking questions, and she's answering very well, and only because of her parents, like she's thinking about parents, like she don't want to lose hope, she just want to be like get people aware, she don't want to be sad inside, like she's going through so much, we can't even imagine what she's going through, but like still she wants to be a strong girl.
That was Ramandeep, sister-in-law of Tanpreet, who was attacked Sunday night in Osborne Village. Yesterday, police service announced that they've arrested a 17-year-old girl in connection with the attack. Les Kiesman is the owner of Club Happenings in Osborne Village and joins us now. Hello, Les.
Hi there.
As a business owner in the village there, what was your reaction to this terrible incident?
I don't know. It's just so unfortunate that these things are happening in our community. Yeah, like I wish the victim like all the best. Like I really hope they make a full and speedy recovery. It's really unfortunate, especially
Yeah. How do you feel yourself about safety as someone who spends a lot of time in the village?
I personally have never felt intimidated or victimized in the area, but. Yeah, I understand that there are people that definitely do, and luckily, my business is kind of we're in the basement, so typically a lot of stuff that happens on street level. So my business tends to be pretty safe and secure, and I do have security every day and that sort of thing. So I've never had too much of an issue myself, but I hear about it all the time, there's somebody walking down the street with a weapon or something. But I have noticed a difference now that Osborne Biz has their safety crew out. So there's always people around, and especially in the summer with increased foot traffic, it tends to be a little bit more populated.
Right. So what changes have you noticed then in recent months?
Well, you see, excuse me. I see, definitely some of the businesses kind of closing up shop or moving. For example, the Starbucks was a huge loss that was shut down over safety concerns. Yeah.
So still a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah, we still have a lot of foot traffic, especially considering the 2 new apartment buildings that have gone up closer to the end of the village. There has definitely brought some more people into the neighborhood.
What are you and other business owners feeling in terms of what needs to change to keep the community safe or make it even safer?
I definitely think an increased police presence would be great. Just to have a couple beat cops, which we did have last year, but that kind of went away. So I would love it if the Winnipeg Police Service actually gave us a couple people there just to ensure the safety of our community and the health of our businesses.
We know that the Osborne Village Music Fest is coming up. What can you tell us about some of the security measures that will be in place for that?
I can only speak for my business, but I do have increased security in my bar just to deal with the influx of people, and my security will have metal detectors and all that just to make sure that we're keeping our people as safe as possible.
How much training do you do, Les, for your staff around safety?
Lots. All my staff is certified with CPR as well as naloxone administration, just in case somebody is in trouble and needs immediate help while we get the EMTs there.
And how important is it that your staff know about de-escalating situations, and especially in a bar?
Absolutely. My security is as much as they're bigger, more physically imposing people, I always make sure that they resort to de-escalation before a physical encounter. And I can proudly say that at my bar, I have 4 years in, I still haven't had a physical incident involving my security or staff.
What would you say to people who might hear about this most recent incident, this poor woman who was attacked, and might be thinking, well, I don't know if I want to go to the village, especially at night when it's dark? What would you say?
I'd say if you're going to come out, and this isn't just for the village, this is anywhere, make sure that you have a friend that you're traveling with. Like, don't walk the streets alone, because these things do tend to be happening with like increased frequency in all areas of the city. So be street smart, make sure you don't have your headphones in at night. Just do what you can do to just kind of keep yourself safe and keep your friends safe. Make sure people always know where you are.
Well, knowing your line of work, you're probably tired. Is it bedtime now?
Yeah, like I honestly kind of just stayed up for this interview, so I know I could be up. So yeah, and I'm headed to my day job to do hair all day, but I don't have to be here till noon, so I'm going to catch a few hours.
All right. Well, thank you for fitting us in. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. That is Les Kiesman, the owner and manager of Club Happenings in Osborne Village.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
It is 17 degrees here in Winnipeg. If you're just joining us, I'm Margot Watt in for Marcy Marcusa. Marcy's back tomorrow. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. Here's my favorite new artist here in Manitoba. This is Sebastian Gascon with Shadows.
I thought that I had known the pain, but not like the one you showed me, not like the one you showed me. I wish that things had stayed the same, but not with the way it's going, not with the way it's going. I've played it back 100 times, I've told myself 1,000 lies, but still inside it's you I find. I don't know how to change it. That memory burned into my head. I prayed for better things instead. I really wish you weren't dead, but I'll just carry on with the show. Don't you know I'm a falling domino, breathing in hope it helps, even though I know it won't. And they say these things take time. I don't need the storm and the rain on my face. I don't wanna fade away, burn me out till I'm gray. I'm a product of the pain and the shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. I let myself fall to the floor more than a couple times now, more than a couple times now. I've walked 100 different lives, I've heard 1,000 different cries. I've tried my best to run and hide. I don't know how to change it. I've talked with God and told him lies. I've acted on my foolish pride. I swear I'm living out of spite. I'll just carry on with the show. Don't you know I'm a falling domino, breathing in hope it helps, even though I know it won't. And they say these things take time. I don't need the storm and the rain on my face. I don't wanna fade away, burn me out till I'm gray. I'm a product of the pain and the shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows
Another great song from his debut album, that is Sebastian Gascon with Shadows. Well, it was a tense evening in the town of Carberry. Transportation engineers presented their plan for the intersection of Highway 1 and Highway 5. 17 people died in a crash there 2 years ago at that intersection. An R-cut is now being proposed by transportation engineers. It's a solution opposed by some residents in town. Ray Muirhead is the mayor of Carberry. He describes what it felt like at the open house last night at Carberry Collegiate.
I think there's a lot of tension in the open house. I was hoping the venue would be different with seats, head table, question and answer, but this is kind of an impromptu thing. It was the same as the first time. We would just walk around and storyboards. I was hoping the Minister of Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure would be here, but that didn't happen. But anyways, they started Q&A at the main table, so that's where we ended up. Nobody wants the R-cut. We're all opposed to it. We feel that there should be an overpass. That was not on the table to begin with, but it was on the table briefly, but then it was taken off the table. I think they should build it and get it done. That intersection was built back in the 60s or 70s, and it was built to have an overpass. And here we are all these years later, and they still talk about long-term, 25 years. So I think it's time to spend the money and do it right the first time. I've seen in my experience over the years that if there's enough of a public outcry and there are protests, certain situations have changed course. I was on council in 1989 when I was in my mid-20s, and that was on the table at that time. And we went to a MOM convention, Manitoba Association of Urban Municipalities, and we sat there, and the Minister of Highways at the time, his name was Albert Dreger, our mayor at the time, Art Sear, he approached him and presented a letter. Will you do something about this intersection? Because it was front and center at that time. We received the same response from the government of that day. We're going to look at it. It'll be a long-term initiative. And here we are 36 years later. Nothing's changed. We just feel it's just added confusion, inconvenience, and complication to an already complicated setup. So we want to reduce that.
That is Carberry Mayor Ray Muirhead. Dustin Boy is the Executive Director of Highway Engineering Services with Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. He was at the open house last night sharing the preferred alternative.
This is the third and final open house for the engagement process for the 1 and 5 intersection project. And it's the open house where we're sharing the preferred alternative with the local community. We've already been in a series of meetings with some of the local governments and stakeholders, sharing the preferred alternative. At this stage, it's really just that. We're sharing what the department's recommendation or preference is to the Manitoba government. And at this point, it's up to the government to make a decision about how we proceed. The preferred alternative is an intersection configuration for the improvement project. It's called a reduced conflict U-turn intersection. And it's a novel and alternative intersection treatment that's been deployed in a number of state agencies in the United States and most recently in Saskatchewan. You know, the local community has expressed a measure of concern with the intersection treatment. And that's fair. It's their local community. It's an intersection treatment that may be, somewhat more inconvenient. They've expressed concerns about traffic and trucks and agricultural equipment, and those are all valid concerns. We've tried to provide, information to help with the decision-making process, but there still remains, obviously, a measure of concern over the preferred alternative that the department's identified. It's called a reduced conflict U-turn intersection. The reduced conflicts are the points where streams of traffic cross, so that's called a conflict point. This intersection configuration reduces the number of those, which reduces the opportunity for collision at those higher risk locations. So that's one part of it. The other part is just the configuration of the intersection, which precludes vehicles on the minor road, in this case PTH 5, from turning left or making a through movement across PTH 1. Instead, it has drivers merge onto PTH 1, travel a distance down the highway, and then make a U-turn. And that does really three things. The first is that the vehicles enter on an acceleration lane, so other drivers that are navigating PTH 1 have a chance to perceive them, that they're there. and they can choose to react. They can slow down, speed up, change lanes, honk their horn, whatever they need to do. But it gives them more time than over the existing intersection, where if somebody accidentally enters the stream of traffic, there's almost no reaction time, and it usually results in a T-bone collision, which is a high-angle, high-speed difference collision type. The other two parts of it are that when you merge onto Trans-Canada Highway, you're merging and you're largely aligning your vehicle speed with other vehicles on the highway and pointing the vehicles generally in the same direction. So if a driver does make a mistake and you get into a collision, the collision is more of like a side swipe glancing blow or a rear end where the speed difference is quite a bit lower than in a T-bone condition. And that's a much more survivable collision type, but much better outcomes than in a T-bone collision in the existing intersection. An overpass is always something that we would consider, for sure. An overpass was a part of the original evaluation criteria. It fell off for a couple of reasons. The primary one being our issue here is safety. And at the low traffic volumes that we see at this intersection, and they're comparatively low to a lot of other intersections on the network, both the R-Cut intersection and the interchange, or overpass as folks call it, perform almost the same from a safety perspective. An overpass or an interchange is a much more appropriate solution where you have a lot of operational issues. You have a lot of delay, a lot of trouble crossing lanes of traffic. We do have that here to a small degree, but not like other areas of the network where we see very high delays in some areas that are much more appropriate locations for us to consider an interchange.
That was Dustin Boy, and he is with Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, speaking to us last night at the Open House in Carberry. For more on this story, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. With the very latest now from the Winnipeg newsroom, we say good morning again to Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, firefighters' work in Flin Flon doesn't end, even though people in that northern city are now back in their homes. Jason Curis is the fire chief in Flin Flon, and his crews worked 18-hour days fighting back those flames, which came right to the city's edge. He says he's thankful so many municipalities across the province sent in extra crews to help. Manitoba Public Insurance wants to raise rates next year by just over 2%. Chris Clausen, a lawyer with the Manitoba branch of the Consumers Association, says MPI's ask sounds reasonable, but he says they still need to review whether MPI needs the rate hike it wants. If the regulator approves that 2% rate hike, the owner of an average private passenger vehicle in Manitoba would pay about $21 more a year for auto insurance. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
17 degrees currently in Winnipeg, warming up to 25 degrees today. But with that humidex, as Abby has been telling us, it will feel even warmer, more like 28 for today. So clearing this morning, and then tonight, partly cloudy down to 14. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and cloud and a high of 27. Again, with the humidex, it will feel like 32 tomorrow. Coming up in the next hour of the program, we'll meet a woman from Creighton, Saskatchewan, who remained behind during those wildfires to help feed the firefighters. She's calling now for better coordination and support for the future from governments. So we'll hear from her after World Report. I'm Margot Watt. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. We're not done. We'll have more after 8.
Today on Q. This job has one rule. You follow orders.
I'm Talia Schlanger sitting in for Tom Power. The hit police drama Allegiance was just renewed for its 3rd season. Show creator Anar Ali will tell you about leaving her corporate job for a life in the arts and why she wanted Allegiance to show a different kind of immigrant story.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Susan Ormiston. It's not clear at this point how much damage U.S. bombs caused to Iran's nuclear capability. But no matter how deep the destruction, the geopolitical ripple effects will be profound. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
The Pentagon is backing up the claims made by U.S. President Donald Trump. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth insists the weekend strikes on Iranian nuclear sites dealt a severe blow to their targets.
There's been a lot of discussion about what happened and what didn't happen. Step back for a second. Because of decisive military action, President Trump created the conditions to end the war, decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities.
Hegseth also refutes the findings of a leaked U.S. intelligence report earlier this week. It indicated the damage could be repaired within a few months. Trump calls those reports fake news, something Hegseth doubled down on today.
There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible.
Hegseth, along with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, are expected to brief U.S. lawmakers about the strikes later today. Iran's supreme leader is also speaking this morning. Ali Khamenei gave his first statement since the ceasefire was announced. Tom Perry is following this from London. Tom, what is Ali Khamenei saying?
Well, we've now heard from Iran's supreme leader. He's not been seen or heard from in days. He surfaced this morning and he put out a series of statements on social media, and they read, I offer my congratulations on the victory over the fallacious Zionist regime. The Zionist regime, he says, was practically knocked out and crushed under the blows of the Islamic Republic. He goes on to say that the U.S. regime entered the war in an effort to save Israel, but achieved nothing. The Islamic Republic, he says, delivered a heavy slap to the U.S.'s face. It attacked and inflicted damage on the U.S. airbase, one of the key U.S. air bases in the region. So Iran's supreme leader there claiming victory in his country's fight with Israel. And the U.S. probably aimed mostly there at a domestic audience for the people of Iran, but also putting on a brave face, I think, to the international community after this fight.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
The CBC's Tom Perry in London. There is anguish and outrage in the occupied West Bank. Palestinians buried 3 men there overnight. They were killed by Israeli settlers who attacked and set fire to their community near Ramallah. Rights groups say extremist settler violence has surged in the West Bank. Chris Brown reports from Jerusalem.
Cars were left smoldering and homes scorched by fire after a rampage by extremist Jewish settlers, says Talat Sami, an eyewitness from the town of Kafir Malak. They attacked women and children, and when the young man went out to defend his family, they shot him in the head without reason. The bodies of 3 Palestinians were later taken to hospitals in nearby Ramallah, accompanied by angry, chanting crowds. Over the long years of Israel's military occupation, settlers have deliberately encroached on Palestinian communities, and violence is now a near daily occurrence, say Israeli and Palestinian human rights groups. But the war in Gaza has inflamed tensions even more, leading to military raids and crackdowns by Israel. Earlier in the day, its troops shot and killed a 15-year-old boy near Jenin, and a 13-year-old was killed in Kafir Malak on Monday. Many of the settlers are part of the Israeli military and armed with automatic weapons. Canada recently sanctioned 2 of Israel's most senior cabinet ministers for contributing to a more permissive environment for settler attacks. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Nunavut says it is still experiencing a suicide crisis. It's been 10 years since it was first declared in the territory, but the government has not declared it a health emergency. The CBC's Samuel Watt has more details.
We are still in a crisis. It is a crisis.
Reaffirming suicide as a crisis, Health Minister John Mayne is bringing Nunavut full circle a decade after it was first declared. The issue came up after a recommendation from a coroner's inquest in April that looked into the death of a man who stabbed himself during a police confrontation. A crisis declaration isn't legally binding, but Mayne says there are still ways for Nunavut residents to hold the government accountable.
Judge us by our actions. How many mental health staff do we have on the front lines? How many shelters do we have or spaces for youth?
The territory has the highest rate of deaths by suicide in the country, an average of 32 a year out of a population of over 30,000 residents. Paul Ernout is the Vice President of Nunavut Tongavik Incorporated, the territory's land claims organisation. He says suicide prevention is not straightforward.
Could mean overcrowding in families. A lot of times there's bullying involved.
MLA Janet Pittilak-Brewster has pushed for a public health emergency designation instead of calling it a crisis. That would trigger extra resources like more suicide training.
What's most important is to arm community members with the ability to walk each other through this ongoing crisis.
Brewster says those resources could help Nunavut avoid another crisis declaration 10 years from now. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The Carney government's major projects bill could be passed by the Senate as early as today, but some senators are expressing reservations about Bill C-5, including whether the legislation will push aside Indigenous rights in order to accelerate the approval of some projects. Those concerns might be addressed at a meeting between the government and Indigenous organizations next month. But Senator Patrick Brazeau has questions about that too.
Wouldn't it be important to have clarification on why the meeting is taking place with Indigenous organizations when those 5 Indigenous organizations in Canada are not the rights holders of anything? They are political lobby organizations.
Brazeau collapsed in the Red Chamber shortly after he asked that question. A spokesperson says he received medical attention and appears to be recovering. Meanwhile, Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nipnak is calling on senators to apply the brakes to C-5 and allow more time for study. The annual Call of Duty League Championship draws tens of thousands of people in person, but also millions online. Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Dallas have all played host to the event before, but this year it's in Kitchener, Ontario. Cameron Mahler has more.
I'm just really excited to, finally experience that. I've been waiting for it all year.
Joseph Romero is getting ready for battle. Known in the gaming world as Joe Deceives, his team, the Toronto Ultra, is taking part in the very first Call of Duty World Championship to ever be held outside of the United States. And it's happening in Kitchener, Ontario. Call of Duty is a 22-year-old, massively popular first-person shooter game that throws its players into military-style virtual combat. The tournament pits 8 teams of 4 against one another for a $2 million prize, but for Romero, who started playing the game when he was just 5, it's not prize money that drives him.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never even known how much I make off events. I don't really look into it. I kind of just, when it hits, it hits. But yeah, I really do just love winning.
Center ice at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, better known as the Odd, has been converted into a screen-covered stage with concert-style lighting and audio equipment and 4 massive jumbotrons where thousands of fans attending can watch the game. Neil Duffy is the Chief Commercial Officer of Overactive Media, the group behind the Toronto Ultra team. He says creativity is part of why they brought the tournament to Kitchener.
They've been open-minded and really creative in developing solutions to allow us to host a world-class gaming event.
8 teams are vying for the title. The winners, and maybe the future of esports in Canada, will be decided in Kitchener this Sunday. Cameron Mahler, CBC News, Kitchener, Ontario.
His name is Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve. Quebec's Denis Villeneuve will direct the next James Bond movie. He says he is a die-hard Bond fan, and he knows tackling such a beloved character is a big responsibility. But Villeneuve is no stranger to ambitious projects. He is shooting the 3rd and final Dune film this summer, and he's got some time before moving on to Bond. There's no set release date, and we still don't know who will play the next 007.
Another one with the golden tongue, poison in your fantasy.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
A woman walking by, a drop in the water, a look in the eye, a phone on the table, a man on your side.
Good morning. I'm Margot Watt, and welcome to Information Radio. Coming up on this hour of the program, we'll talk to a woman from Creighton, Saskatchewan, who is now back home after the wildfires. She had to flee her home, but then she went back to the community to help out people who needed a hand. So we'll hear her story. Also, some of the people in Flin Flon are back home this morning. About 4,800 Flin Flon wildfire evacuees began returning home this week. We'll hear from some of them. I'm Margot Watt, and you're with Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the CBC Listen app, and on YouTube. With the very latest from our Winnipeg newsroom, here again is Heather.
Good morning. Well, firefighters' work in Flin Flon doesn't end, even though people are now back in their homes in that northern city. Jason Curis, the fire chief in Flin Flon, says his crews worked 18-hour days fighting back flames that came right to the edge of the city. And what was meant to be an information session turned into a heated showdown over plans for the junction of Highways 1 and 5 near Carberry last night. That is the intersection where 17 people died 2 years ago in a bus crash. Many say the proposed R-cut would make the intersection even more dangerous. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
And we still have some humidity, making it feel a little warmer than it actually is, Abby.
Yep, Margot, it's going to be a warm day across the province. While the south will be enjoying more sunshine and more warm temperatures, the north will be seeing more cloudy conditions and a slight chance of showers and a few thunderstorms in the forecast. Still about Lynn Lake, we have that air quality warning in effect due to the smoke from forest fire in that region. The air may be really difficult for a lot of people to breathe. So if it's impacting you, I'd advise you to stay inside. In Winnipeg right now, 19 degrees. The skies are starting to clear. We saw some cloudy conditions earlier. As we move through the morning, expect lots of sunshine through the afternoon period. The winds will be picking up a bit from the south, and we warm to a high of 25. Though with the humidity factored in, it's going to feel warmer. We're going to be in the range of 28, 29 later. And across the region, we're already seeing temperatures close to 20 degrees. Up north, we're seeing 11 to 17 degrees. Showers possible in the north today. Overall, sunny and warm across the south and cloudy conditions and with some showers up north.
All right, thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
And we are having a fairly quiet ride into work, it seems, so far this morning, Sierra.
That we are. Things are moving along out there. No calls on the commuter line. But again, wanted to remind folks there's a Bomber game tonight, so expect some increased traffic around Princess Audio Stadium. There's construction going on around the stadium. So be patient with your fellow commuters and expect some delays in that area, and maybe expect to be on your Bomber shuttle a little bit longer heading to and from the game this evening. There's still some time in the show, so if there's anything slowing you down out there, whether you're here in Winnipeg or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
Well, picking up and returning to normal life after a wildfire, never easy. Now that the dust has settled on the immediate crisis, residents are going home. Flin Flon residents began returning yesterday, and just across the border in Saskatchewan, Creighton residents have been back since last Sunday. Dawn Halady is one of them. She initially stayed behind after the evacuation order in her town, then fled, and then ultimately returned to help feed the firefighters there. Dawn joins us on Zoom this morning. Good morning, Dawn.
Good morning.
Tell us about that decision to go back and help feed the firefighters.
Well, ultimately, feeding that many mouths is a very big job. And my husband, he was left behind right from the beginning. He's a town councillor for Creighton, and we do own and operate a restaurant on the Manitoba side in Flin Flon. So when I evacuated the first night, I realized exactly what kind of work was needing to be involved with feeding all these guys. And it doesn't take just one person to pull that off. He had a few volunteers with a few other town councillors of his, and he needed my help. And truly, I felt helpless being away, and I felt that I needed to be there. So I did come back after the first night. I helped in the kitchen Thursday night, the first day after the evacuation, and then actually had to re-evacuate out again on Friday because the winds were getting too extreme and it was becoming dangerous for everybody there.
Right. Now, I remember when you did have to leave, when you were part of that evacuation, I spoke with you that afternoon.
Yes.
And I remember you describing this surreal scene of the helicopters and the smoke and this long convoy of traffic. So what was that like for you going back, knowing what was happening?
It was definitely a feeling of uncertainty. When I arrived back into town, I felt like I was actually in a movie that I should have been playing at my drive-in theater. The only vehicles you saw in town were emergency vehicles, so literally there was lights everywhere. I almost felt like I was the sole survivor of an apocalypse. There was nobody around. It was only us and our work crew, and then the frontline workers. So it was definitely an eerie experience. It was definitely scary at times. The first couple of nights I was back, the helicopters were such a sound over my house that it was even uncomforting thinking that I should be going to sleep.
Yeah.
It was questionable if somebody was still going to be coming knocking on my door saying, get out. So it was definitely a feeling of uncertainty, but it was something that we needed to do to be there to help.
And when you were helping, when you were feeding those firefighters and just helping out wherever you could, what was that like for you, being able to just give back a little something?
It was completely rewarding. These firemen worked so hard around the clock. We were all exhausted together trying to pull off one mission, and that was saving our communities. And in order for the frontline workers to do that, they needed to be fueled. So that was our part of the job, was having them fed 3 times a day, and it was truly rewarding.
Now, I know that you know what you're doing in the kitchen, obviously, so with your businesses, but what was involved logistically in making that happen?
Well, it was right from the beginning of procuring products from fire commissioners and getting trucks involved. We thankfully still had a fully stocked restaurant, so some of our products was able to help in the initial few days. But it was literally waking up at 3:30 in the morning to be in the kitchen at 4:30. We were working with a very small skeleton crew, so to have 240 mouths to feed 3 times a day, it was 16 to 18-hour days off the start as well, until we were able to secure some of our own staff that were able to come back.
So how much support did you have during this time from government?
None. None. From beginning to end, I feel like it was a very broken system. It was very complicated being our border town, dealing with 2 different provinces, 2 different municipalities with different recommendations from the government. Red Cross, they never once called us to say like, hey, do you need a hand with this? Can we send in anybody? It was literally us problem solving every step of the way.
And what do you make of that?
It's disheartening. There was a lot of cry for help right from the beginning, whether it was, help for the firefighters to come in, whether it was help from Red Cross financially or the SPSA for our residents. It was cries of help all throughout the 28 days, and not a lot of it was really executed. So it's really disheartening to know that, the votes that you give these leaders don't really mean anything when it comes into term of crisis. And you really sit back and you realize that you can only rely on yourself through these situations and your local people.
So how hopeful are you that, given the terrible ordeal so many of you have been through in the past month or so, how hopeful are you that things might be better should there be a next time? We know wildfires are part of our reality now, unfortunately. Have there been lessons learned, do you think?
Definitely. I think it's only in times of these disastrous situations that hard lessons are learned. There's been a lot of awareness brought to a lot of broken situations here that have happened. And I really hope that it doesn't happen again or happen to any other communities. We're such a big community amongst ourselves. We operate as one, even being a border town in two different provinces. We've got 4 communities technically that are governed all in their own. So it really becomes messy in a situation like this. And it definitely has shined light on a lot of things that could have been done differently. And we just hope that we could all move together as one throughout the rest of this now.
So you've been back in your home for a few days now. What's that been like?
I've actually been here since June 5th. So
Okay.
it's nice to see the progression of all the residents coming back. I went to the grocery store yesterday and there was lots of hugs and lots of tears and just it's nice to see people back within the community. There's still a little bit of a long road ahead with different things that still need to be done, but it's definitely comforting knowing that all the residents are able to come back now.
How long do you think it will take for life to get completely back to normal, if there is such a thing anymore?
It's quite a big spectrum, actually. It's the simplest thing is having the Flin Flon Hospital fully functional to get the medical residents back. There's graduations that need to take part. There's 3 high schools that all postpone their graduations, my son being one of them. There's employers still have yet to operate at full capacity because their employees, they're still not all back. And then there's all the way up to possibly a 2-year time frame in order to resurrect Denair Beach that sadly we lost through this. And that's going to be a long road ahead for those residents. And my heart goes out to them in every step of the way through that process. And then just a mental debriefing for everybody. Everyone has their own story to tell throughout this, and the tragedy and the trauma and the exhaustion that everyone has endured, whether you're a frontline worker or whether you're an evacuee that's been in a hotel for 28 days. Everyone just needs some rest and some downtime and just to kind of reconnect with everybody.
Yeah. You doing okay?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely tired. It's been long days. I'm dreading getting back into the drive-in theater mode of things because I was going to bed at 3:30 when that was operating, and then I was waking up at 3:30 to go cook in the kitchen. So I need to flip my clock. But I'm definitely excited to get the drive-in up and going because movies are a good escape for people as well. So that's something that I'm looking forward to offering the community.
That's great. Well, all the best with all of that. Dawn, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
That's Dawn Lady, who lives in Creighton, Saskatchewan, just across the border from Flin Flon.
As wildfires impact our province, keep up to date with CBC. For the latest information, listen to CBC Radio 1. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba or the CBC News app. For people who have a limited data plan or are running into spotty mobile service on the road, visit cbc.ca/lite. That's cbc.ca/LITE.
It is 8:23, 17 degrees here in Winnipeg. I'm Margo Watt in for Marcy this morning. Good morning to you. And why did the turkey cross the road? Well, we don't know, but it's what's happening now. Barb just gave us a call reporting a wild turkey wandering on Lyndale Drive in Norwood West. So keep an eye for that, because I don't know if you've encountered turkeys in the wild, but they move for no one, has been my experience. So, Barb, thanks for the call. And if you do have traffic tips for us, 788-3093 is the commuter number. Well, as we've been telling you, 4 weeks away from home, that's how long some 4,800 Flin Flon residents have been waiting since being forced to flee their homes at the end of May. The wildfire in the area is still burning out of control, actually, but officials have declared it is safe enough for people to go back. Jason Kuras is Flin Flon's fire chief. He reflects now on the efforts made to keep the city safe.
Well, I'd like to begin by saying I'm so sorry for all the losses that people have incurred. Our thoughts and prayers are with you during this difficult time. To give everyone an overview of what occurred here in the city of Flin Flon, I'll begin on May 27th, when a wildfire entered the area surrounding Flin Flon. The fire department began to defend key areas of the city that were impacted. During this time, a request was made for support and staff from the Office of the Fire Commissioner. In the days that followed, 194 firefighters from 53 different municipalities and municipal fire departments, along with 15 OFC members, brought 18 fire trucks, 29 fire apparatuses, and 5 boats to assist with the efforts to save the city of Flin Flon and to assist with the surrounding areas. This was a massive undertaking to achieve what was done and shows what an amazing thing can be done when we as a province come together. My deepest gratitude goes out to all the individuals and municipalities that allowed their firefighters and equipment to come to our aid. You will never be forgotten. We will always try to reciprocate.
And that is the fire chief in Flin Flon, Jason Curras. The city was spared from the fires, but for residents, going back isn't as easy as you might think. Residents were allowed back in yesterday morning. Ainsley McIntosh is one of them, and she gave the CBC's Josh Crabb a tour of what her house looked like when she got back.
We all got an evacuation notice that said immediately. It wasn't like, oh, you have 2 hours. The sentiment amongst the community was like, oh, like we're probably in a dangerous position. You could see the fire from, like I could see it from my deck. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna put the sprinkler on for a bit. If I need someone to come and turn it off, then I will. The night that I got my first sump pump alert was actually the night that the community, like this community, Flin Flon, was in the most danger. And I thought, well, if I'm getting water because I'm trying to possibly save my home, then c'est la vie, I suppose, right? When we got home, this room was just filled with water. There was a bed here before. Basically what happened is when the power went out, it was kicking in and out, it shorted the sump pump and it actually sent water back into the house. So instead of pumping it out in a way, it was actually sucking it in and into the room. This is one of the water lines here, right? That's like the most obvious, as well as like right under here. And you can actually see that's the mold line that's there. I did have a door here. We had to take it out because it was swollen. It was about a foot high.
What's the most challenging part, do you think, about returning home after being away for 4 weeks?
I think it'll be finding normalcy for a bit. Like, I feel like I have a bit of survivor's guilt in a sense. Like, I want to be able to do as much as I can for my friends and family and just people that I know and care for that have lost literally everything. I feel like I can speak for a lot of people. I feel like it's hard to know that, like, I'm so happy to be back home. I had some of the best sleeps of my entire life the last 2 nights, but it also, like, it's heartbreaking to know that we're already kind of in a weird housing crisis in Canada. These people who have put and had beautiful homes and had beautiful lives, they've like lost everything. So it's hard to feel too happy because I also want to feel like there for them in whatever way. So I think a lot of people are feeling that, like, we're all so happy and relieved to be home and that we have them, but then immediately in turn, your heart kind of aches that you're able to feel this happy while they're without everything.
And that was the CBC's Josh Crabb speaking with Flin Flon resident Ainsley McIntosh. Right now, let's find out what's happening on Radio Noon today with the lovely Marjorie Dowhouse. Hello, Marjorie.
Well, hello, Margot.
So what's up today?
Well, summer is here, and school's going to be out soon. Mm-hmm. And we know that a lot of graduates have already had their convocation. A lot of kids are going to be looking for summer employment. Right. But as you may have heard, Stats Canada says that youth unemployment is probably the highest we're going to see this year, since the 1990s. Well, that can have many implications on young people as they look for jobs in the future and become adults. So we're going to talk to an expert in how that affects youth mentally. So we're asking you on the show today, did you have a summer job when you were young? How did it enrich your life? What did it mean to you to be able to find a summer job and work in the summer job? As we're going to be hearing, when you get a summer job, you learn a lot of things, to be responsible, to hold down a job, but also the connections that you make through that job that carry on with you into the future. So call in, share your story, and ask some questions too.
That's great. And I find it interesting looking back on some of my jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Some were successful, some were not. But learning what not to do. Because when you're just starting out, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
and you see people doing things like, oh, I'm going to do that. And it's like, oh, I'm never going to do that. Not going to be like that guy. Should be a fun show. Thank you, Marjorie.
Yes, thank you, Margot.
Marjorie Dahouse is the host of Radio Noon. And we should mention we have a very special program tomorrow with Information Radio. The iconic intersection of Portage and Main will be opening up to pedestrians for the first time in over 40 years. It is finally happening. Information Radio will be broadcasting live right in front of the old Bank of Montreal building and now the future home of the Métis National Heritage Centre. So we'll hear what people are saying about the opening, and we'll be talking to guests live right there at the corner of Portage and Main. Portage is the name of the street, if you've never heard of it like myself. Marcy Marcusa, Sierra Sanders, Chloe Friesen will all be there live, so we'll be tuning in for that tomorrow on Information Radio. Right now, we tune in for the CBC News from Winnipeg.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is 19 degrees. We're headed to 25, but it is going to be humid. The humidex will be 28 today. Sunny as well. Pushback in Carberry.
Who do not agree with you, that live here and use it every day and know just how stupid this idea is. So listen to us now.
Tensions boiling over at a public open house last night in Carberry over plans to redesign the intersection of the Trans-Canada and Highway 5. That is where 17 people died in a bus crash 2 years ago. People from the area packed last night's meeting, angry over Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure's recommendation to install a restricted crossing U-turn, also known as an R-cut. Tyson Boychuk worries it will delay emergency response times. And that was more sound from that meeting, but here now is Tyson Boychuk.
I just don't understand how that's not going to add response time. It worries me because our emergency isn't always open. It's not open every day of the week. So sometimes we have to go to Brandon. And so, to have that extra response and to have to go around and make that U-turn, it worries me.
Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation says the R-cut design is the preferred recommendation. The final decision rests with the provincial government. Well, firefighters' work in Flin Flon doesn't end, even though people are back in their homes in that northern city. Jason Curas is the fire chief in Flin Flon. His crews worked 18-hour days fighting back flames that came right to the city's edge. Curas is thankful so many municipalities across the province sent in extra crews.
It really is absolutely amazing and special to be part of this huge event, and all the credit goes to the hardworking firefighters that made it happen, and we're able to achieve something that has never been seen on this scale in Manitoba before.
Now, a Flin Flon homeowner who fled fire returned to a flood.
When I walked in the door, my husband and I, we were expecting the smell of smoke, and I walked in and I smelled mold.
Ainsley McIntosh Stallard had a foot of water in her basement. Her sump pump shorted out during a power failure while she was away. McIntosh Stallard says despite the water damage, she is happy to be home.
I had some of the best sleeps of my entire life the last 2 nights, but it's also it's heartbreaking to know that we're already kind of in a weird housing crisis in Canada. These people who have put and had beautiful homes and had beautiful lives, they've lost everything. So it's hard to feel too happy.
McIntosh Stallard was allowed to return earlier this week because she owns a restaurant in Flin Flon, but it's going to be some time before she can reopen. All the fresh produce she bought before the evacuation spoiled. She's now waiting to hear if insurance will help cover her losses. Manitoba Public Insurance wants to raise rates next year by just over 2%. Chris Clausen is a lawyer with the Manitoba branch of the Consumers Association of Canada. He says MPI's ask sounds reasonable. He says his client appreciates the planned reduction in IT spending and no major hikes in staffing or operating costs. But Clausen says his client still needs to review whether MPI needs the rate hike it wants.
It'll come down to what we see in the hearing and what MPI's evidence shows with respect to their claims forecast and whether it's justifiable that they'll need these rate increases to cover their costs next year.
If the regulator approves the rate hike, the owner of an average private passenger vehicle would pay $21 more a year for auto insurance. A Winnipeg teen is using art to advocate for women and girls in Afghanistan. 13-year-old Satayesh Kashi and her family fled Afghanistan in 2021 after the country's government collapsed and the Taliban seized control. And as Manitoba's school year is ending, she is feeling fortunate because friends back home aren't allowed to get an education.
I take my education really seriously and take it as like a one chance in life, because so many people in Afghanistan, mostly girls, they don't have that chance, and I'm the lucky one.
In Afghanistan, the Taliban have stopped girls from going to school beyond grade 6. You can read more on all these stories and stay in step with the news as it develops through the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the day. Heather Wells in our newsroom, along with Aaron Broman in the newsroom. Our associate producers here on the program, Chidi Akuma, Angelina Pelche, May McKillop, Carmen Ponto. In our studio crew this morning, Abby Adiyame, Brad Lillies, Sierra Sanders. And thanks to everyone for bringing the show together, as always, today here at Information Radio. Let's take a look at traffic one last time. Here's Sierra.
Good morning. Gateway, Raleigh, and Monroe, the lights are flashing all red there at that intersection, so treat that as a four-way stop. Crews are on the way there. And then I'll say it one more time. There's a Bomber game tonight. Expect some increased traffic around Princess Audio Stadium, construction on University Crescent and on southbound Pembina heading towards the stadium. So be patient with your fellow commuters and expect some delays in that area, and go blue.
And, absolutely, go blue. Abby, go, weather.
It's going to be warm across the province, sunny in the south and cloudy up north with a few showers or possible storms also. The south will be mild. We're currently seeing temperatures close to 19, warming close to 25, while up north we're seeing temperatures around 17 now. Winnipeg, 19, close to 25, but it's going to be a humid day. So for game time, you need to dress light.
All right. Thank you, Abby. We are live tomorrow at Portage and Maine with Marcy Marcusa, so don't miss that. I'm Margot Watt. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon, actually, on Up to Speed, so we will be talking again very soon. It's been a pleasure, as always, and The Current is coming up next here on CBC.